Do you love novels, but don't have time to read thousands of chapters? Imagine listening to your favorite stories anytime, anywhere, while driving, working, or relaxing. Here, you'll find premium audiobooks from Pocket FM, Audible, Webnovel, Wuxia, and more, all in one place. Every novel is a one-time payment, no subscriptions, no monthly fees, lifetime access. The full novel list and prices are in the description below. Once you choose a novel, just DM me on Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord. After payment via PayPal, Ko-fi, or Patreon, you get permanent access to the audiobook on Telegram. And if the novel is ongoing, all future updates are included. Check the description, pick your story, and start listening today. Before we start the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Enjoy, and let's go.
41. Chapter 41, Heart of the Little Demon Empress. What are you doing? The little demon empress ignored his question and countered coldly. Yet the icy tone in her voice was noticeably softer when speaking to him compared to her subordinates. She hadn't done it on purpose, and it had been like this ever since they left the Golden Crow's ancestral land. Though he had only realized it now. Rinzhu merely shrugged and answered, I'm refining pills. Refining pills? Without a cauldron, a furnace, or any artifact. How exactly are you doing that? The little demon empress asked expressionlessly. Even if others can't, that doesn't mean I can't. Rinzhu smiled calmly. With a casual wave of his hand, the box containing the sun and moon pill he had refined earlier appeared before him. He opened it carefully and, looking at Sai, said with tranquil confidence, You arrived at the perfect moment. This pill was something I refined especially for you. For this empress? The little demon empress faintly furrowed her brow. Why would this empress need a pill? Because this pill will literally solve your problem of having only 3 years left to live. Rinzhu gave a faint smile and walked toward her, stopping just a few feet away. He continued, I can't let my wife die. You will live a long, long life by my side. For an instant, the air between them seemed to freeze. The little demon empress stared at him in silence, as though his words had pierced through every wall she had built over the years. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. A gentle night breeze stirred, making the black strands of her hair dance in the air. And for the first time, Rinzhu saw hesitation in those eyes that were always firm and distant. Are you serious? She finally asked, her voice lower than she intended. This empress's fate was proclaimed by the divine Golden Crow god itself. Since even the Golden Crow divine god declared it, what being in this world could possibly change it? The condition of this body is something this empress understands far better than you. Even if we used every spiritual herb the Yun family has accumulated over the past 10,000 years, and every purple-veined divine crystal in the entire illusory demon realm, it couldn't extend this empress's life by even a little. It would be a waste. She didn't truly doubt him, not really. She simply didn't know how to react. Ever since she had received that cruel fate, that her life flame would extinguish in 3 years, she had resigned herself to it. She had accepted that this would be her end. Now, suddenly, he appeared with a solution that, by her knowledge, bordered on the miraculous. She couldn't bear to raise her hopes only to watch them crumble. It was easier to believe he was deluding himself, or that this was merely a foolish attempt to comfort her. Rejecting the possibility of hope was less painful than allowing herself to feel, and then losing everything once more. That was why she looked at her husband, with the same expressionless face as always, and said, All you need to do is help this empress keep this secret and tell no one. As for everything else, you don't need to worry. You don't have to meddle. Rinzhu smiled faintly, without a trace of arrogance. Only that calm, carefree smile that seemed so natural on his face. When have I ever joked about something like this? Sai? He took one step closer. You know me. If I say I can save you, then I can. Not only will this pill extend your lifespan, it will also give you a chance to step into the true divine profound realm. The empress's heart beat faster. She averted her gaze, trying to hide the slight tremor in her hands. Her black eyes remained cold, but a subtle gleam flickered within them, an oscillation she could hardly conceal. Without a word, she raised her hand, and with a flick of her long sleeve, the pill floated from the box into her palm. She sighed and said, Seeing how hard you worked, this empress will accept it just this once. Rinzhu watched in silence, a serene smile on his lips. Refine it slowly, he said calmly, his voice firm yet gentle. I'll be right here. Nothing will disturb you. The little demon empress merely nodded slightly. She took the pill and slowly brought it to her lips, swallowing it with care. Instantly, a gentle warmth spread through her body, expanding in waves that mingled with the silence of the night, like a river of light flowing beneath her skin. The pill's power penetrated deep into her flesh, bones, and soul, causing every strand of profound energy in her body to vibrate in perfect harmony. An exuberant life force began coursing through every cell, pulsing with a vigor that seemed to rebirth the very essence of life itself. So warm and comforting, yet at the same time so vast and overwhelming that her heart trembled. So much life force. It was as though the vital essence of thousands of people had been extracted, purified, and condensed into that single divine pill. Every particle fused with her body and spirit, strengthening, nourishing, and extending the time of her existence. Even her profound veins, nourished by that torrent of life force, began pulsing with dazzling brilliance. Power flowed through them like rivers of divine lava, expanding and pressing against the internal barriers of her cultivation. The bottleneck that had confined her slowly began to loosen, trembling under the impact of that magnificent force. To think that she was a half-step divine, profound realm cultivator. Someone who had already touched the supreme limit of the mortal world. One more step, just one small breakthrough, and she would cross into an entirely different realm, ascending to the domain reserved only for the divine existences of legend. Her heart shook with an indescribable emotion as she felt her foundation growing and solidifying with every breath. While her body underwent this miraculous transformation, the moment the little demon empress consumed the pill, the air around them grew denser, more vibrant, as though the world itself were responding to her presence. A majestic aura rose, blending the gentle glow of moonlight with the searing warmth of a rising sun. The little demon empress's delicate figure was enveloped in divine light, and a mixture of gold and silver began to shimmer across her skin, as if every cell reflected the perfect harmony of yin and yang. Heaven and earth energy converged upon her, swirling in resplendent spirals that made space itself tremble, while a sacred pressure emanated from her body, as though she had cast off her mortality. Rinzhu watched silently, never interfering, his gaze fixed solely on her. The life force within her continued to surge for long minutes, churning like a vast ocean in a storm before gradually calming. The divine aura radiating from her body stabilized, and the glow cloaking her skin slowly receded, dissipating completely into the air. The little demon empress opened her eyes gently. A soft sigh escaped her lips, light, yet carrying the weight of years of tension finally released. Her entire body felt relaxed, warm, wrapped in a comfort so profound it bordered on ecstasy. It was as if she were immersed in a celestial hot spring, where every drop of that life force caressed her cells, purifying them and freeing her from pains and burdens she hadn't even known she carried. She had completely refined the sun and moon pill. Within her, the balanced power of yin and yang flowed like intertwining currents of gold and silver in perfect harmony. The ancient burden that had been corroding her vitality vanished without a trace. "Unbelievable," she murmured, her voice trembling slightly. If any lingering skepticism about the pill Rinzhu had refined remained, it was now utterly gone. She could feel with absolute clarity that the sensation of her life force being consumed by the golden crow's flames had disappeared entirely. As a woman, she should have perished upon receiving the golden crow's legacy without Rinzhu. She would never have endured it. When she inherited that power, she had come to deeply understand the reasons behind its limitations, knowing her own condition better than anyone. And now, with the help of the pill her husband had given her, those barriers that once restricted her had been completely dissolved. A sensation of freedom and vitality coursed through her body, and in her heart she knew with absolute certainty. Nothing would stop her from living thousands of years. Her black eyes fixed on the beautiful young man before her, filled with shock and gratitude. He had resolved something the golden crow itself had declared impossible. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart, and finally voiced her thoughts. "It's as if every part of my body has been reborn." Rinzhu approached, his footsteps nearly soundless on the grass. Moonlight bathed his figure, and in his eyes was a calm confidence, as though the outcome had never been in doubt. "Now do you believe me?" he asked with a faint smile. The little demon empress gazed at him in silence for a long moment. Her lips parted as if to speak, but the words simply wouldn't come. Inside her, a tangle of old and newly awakened emotions fought for space, and even she didn't know how to untangle them. For 100 years she had been alone. Solitude had become her constant companion, shaping her heart until it turned cold and unyielding. There had been no affection, no tenderness, no comfort, only memories she preferred to bury. But everything changed when she met Rinzhu. During that 1 week spent with him, everything changed, and when she learned the truth about the deaths of her father and brother, when vengeance became the sole purpose of her existence, she sacrificed the rest. Her humanity, her compassion, her desires, and even the love that, against all logic, had begun to bloom for the young man standing before her. She had buried it along with her dreams, believing that was the inevitable price of her path. But fate was always cruel. During those 3 months when she had given herself to him without reservation, what she discovered shattered her inside. She discovered that he truly loved her. At first, all she felt was a suffocating emptiness, a bitterness she had never known, mingling with her loneliness and burning hotter than any infernal flame. It was as if his every touch reminded her of what she believed she didn't deserve. She had forced him, not out of emotion, but solely to fulfill her revenge. Yet she stayed. And 3 months later, she treated him with a certain indifference, not from lack of love, but from fear. She knew she would die in 3 years. To spare him the inevitable pain, she tried to push him away. She tried to be cruel, distant, cold. But the harder she pushed, the more entangled she became in her own feelings. The heart she thought had hardened centuries ago began to falter every time he smiled. Every time he spoke her name with a tenderness not even gods could fake. That was why, after leaving the Golden Crow Lightning Flame Valley, she had declared she would take responsibility and become his wife. Now, with her vengeance finally complete, made possible only with the help of the young man before her, nothing remained to stop her from facing what was left inside her. The rage had dissipated, the hatred extinguished. All that remained was him, and a love that persisted, indomitable, despite everything that had happened between them. She could no longer lie to herself. She had come to him tonight because she wanted him. She wanted to see him, touch him, feel the warmth of his arms one last time. No matter how proud she was, no matter how much she tried to deny it, the desire to be by his side was stronger than any shame. That was why she had sought him out tonight. Husband, she whispered strangely, her voice trembling slightly. You really did it. Renzu simply smiled, his expression carrying a touch of tenderness and serenity. This was the first time the little demon empress, known far and wide as heartless, had ever called him husband. I told you I wouldn't let my wife die, he replied simply, as naturally as breathing. The little demon empress averted her gaze, feeling her cheeks grow faintly warm. Stepping closer, Renzu gently encircled her waist with hands that contrasted strength with softness, drawing her to him with serene confidence. Their eyes met, and for a moment the world around them seemed to fade. The night breeze, the moonlight, everything scattered like leaves in the wind. Slowly, he leaned in, his lips brushing hers with a tenderness that carried all the care and love he had kept inside. He kissed her softly. The kiss was slow, deep, filled with a gentleness that pierced through the barriers she had built over centuries. Surprisingly, she responded. Her lips, soft and delicate as petals, moved against his, hesitant at first, but soon yielding to the warmth that seemed to melt the ice in her heart. Her hands, which by instinct nearly rose to push him away, hovered in the air before lightly settling on his shoulders. As if, for the first time, she was allowing herself to surrender completely. When they finally parted, Renzu looked at her with that calm, slightly teasing smile that seemed an intrinsic part of him. That, he said, his voice soft yet playful, was my reward. The little demon empress furrowed her brow, her black eyes glinting with that familiar cold light. Humph, she murmured, crossing her arms and turning her face away, her cheeks tinged with a nearly imperceptible blush under the moonlight. You really are shameless. Do you think you can just kiss this empress like that and call it a reward? Despite the cold tone and rigid posture, she made no move to pull away. Her feet remained planted where they were, and her eyes, even when averted, betrayed a softness she could no longer fully hide. Renzu chuckled softly, the sound warm and comforting. Sai, you can say whatever you want, but your lips don't lie. He tilted his head, drawing a little closer, his hand still resting gently on her waist. And I know you enjoyed it just as much as I did. Arrogant, she snapped, turning her face even further, but the slight quiver in her voice revealed that her icy facade was on the verge of crumbling. She raised a hand as if to push him away, yet her fingers merely brushed his chest, hesitating before withdrawing. Don't think I'll spoil you just because you made one pill. This empress said she would take responsibility and be your wife, but don't push your luck, she added, struggling to maintain her composure, though the gleam in her eyes and the faint curve of her lips betrayed how hard she was fighting herself. Renzu simply smiled, neither pressing further nor retreating. He knew that behind that mask of coldness, her heart was beginning to open again, like a flower blooming after a long winter. You can be as stubborn as you like, Tsai, he said, his voice carrying gentle certainty. And I'm not pushing my luck. We're husband and wife after all. A kiss is perfectly normal, isn't it? She didn't answer immediately, only gazing at him for a long moment, her black eyes reflecting the moonlight and something deeper, a mixture of vulnerability and hope she would never admit aloud. Then, with a resigned sigh, she murmured almost inaudibly, "Idiot!" But the faint tightening of her fingers on his sleeve, barely perceptible, said everything her words could not. /n hello everyone. Thank you so much for your patience these past few days. I ended up getting sick and needed some time to recover. Because of that, I couldn't post new chapters, and even the Patreon updates were temporarily paused. But I'm back now and feeling much better. Updates have already resumed, both here and on Patreon. And now for the news. The Illusory Demon Realm arc is approaching its end. So if you've been enjoying this story and want to read ahead, this is a great time to subscribe. For just $5.99, you get access to all my content, including more than 50 extra chapters, exclusive, not posted anywhere else, over 30 chapters of Patreon-exclusive stories, plus early access to future updates. My Patreon, patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 42. Chapter 42. A Moment Beyond Time. The night wind danced around them, carrying the faint fragrance of spiritual herbs that bloomed only under moonlight. The grass swayed gently, and the world seemed wrapped in an unearthly stillness where only the sound of 2 heartbeats could be heard. Renzu still held her by the waist, his warm hand a stark contrast against the cool silk of her dress, as though his touch were the sole point of warmth in that silent realm. For a moment, neither spoke, they simply looked at each other. For the first time in ages, there was no revenge, no duty, no forced circumstances between them. There was only this moment. In that instant, the little demon empress, she whose mere presence could silence and terrify every hero beneath the heavens, whose single glance could humble the proudest, felt, for the first time in far too long, an emotion so deep it defied mere words. The air around her, always thick with a chilling, murderous aura, wavered and weakened, as if it had lost its reason to exist. Her shoulders relaxed ever so slightly, and a soft, almost imperceptible sigh escaped her lips, a sound far too fragile for someone like her. "You truly have no shame," she murmured at last, her voice softer than she intended. Renzu let out a short, "Shame? I see no reason for it. My wife looks breathtaking tonight." The faint blush that rose to her cheeks was nearly invisible, but Renzu noticed. Of course he did. Her usually unwavering gaze darted away at once, and for a brief moment she looked like an ordinary girl trying to hide her shyness. "You talk too much," she replied, attempting to reclaim her composure. "I'm only being honest," Renzu said, that calm smile of his slowly melting the rigidity she wore like armor. The silence that followed was light, almost comfortable. Renzu gazed at the beautiful woman before him. Moonlight kissed her skin that was as white as fresh snow and delicate as a newborn's. It looked like flawless jade, pure and smooth, without a single blemish. Her long lashes framed eyes that made her seem like a porcelain doll. Yet something beyond her appearance was drawing him in. "Sai," he called after a while. "What is it? You still haven't answered me. Why did you come here tonight?" The little demon empress fell silent for several seconds. Her small, exquisitely delicate face, 10,000 times more refined than any doll, remained expressionless. Her eyes grew focused, deep and infinite pools through which no one could guess her thoughts. "This empress," she began, her face as impassive as ever, though the tips of her ears betrayed a faint flush, "came to think about something. Since this empress's life was supposed to end in 3 years, I decided it would be wise to leave behind an heir to the imperial bloodline before then. A descendant who could rule the illusory demon realm after I depart." Renzu gazed at her in silence. There was no surprise in his eyes, he had foreseen those words long before they were spoken. The moment he learned the little demon empress had only 3 years left and that her vengeance was complete, he understood what her next decision would be, to secure the continuation of the imperial bloodline. For her, the dignity and glory of the imperial family had always stood above everything, even her own life. A soft sigh slipped from his lips. "You really are an idiot, Sai." The words fell like a thin blade. She whipped her head toward him, eyes cold as steel, voice tinged with irritation. "What did you say?" Renzu rose slowly, his gaze calm yet carrying unshakable resolve. "I said you're an idiot," he murmured, voice low but cutting. "Did you truly think I'd just stand by and watch you plan your own death? That I'd accept it as if it were inevitable?" He took a step closer, eyes locked on hers, every word heavy with conviction. "You should have trusted me more. I told you I'd find a solution. And I just did, didn't I?" The little demon empress felt the urge to grind her teeth in frustration. Her chest rose and fell with a mix of anger and something harder to name. "Don't speak as if you know what this empress felt back then," she shot back, her voice rising with the authority of one accustomed to being feared, yet trembling faintly at the end, betraying the emotion she tried to cage. "This empress is grateful for the pill you refined and for resolving that problem." She drew a deep breath. "But do you think it's that simple? that wanting it is enough to change a fate sealed by the golden crow divine God himself. Her voice wavered for a heartbeat before regaining its steel. It's not that I didn't want to believe you. I simply chose not to delude myself. I accepted it long ago. Before she could finish, he moved. Renzu pulled her firmly against him, her body colliding with his. The touch was strong, yet there was hidden tenderness in it, as though he feared she might shatter at the slightest excess. As long as I'm alive, he murmured against the silken strands of her hair, voice low but leaving no room for doubt. You will not die. He held her a little tighter, his tone softening into something almost a whisper that carried both promise and gentle reproach. Didn't I tell you that? Next time, trust your husband a little more. A brief pause, his warm breath brushing her skin. That's why I called you an idiot. The little demon empress stood motionless for several seconds. Her heart raced. She felt the warmth of his chest, the steady rhythm of his breathing, and a strange sensation, as if the world had suddenly become too small to contain everything she felt. She opened her mouth, ready to retort sharply, but no words came. They died before they were born. She simply closed her eyes and let the embrace envelop her completely. Renzu held her long enough for the faint tremor in her shoulders to cease and for her racing heart to calm. His warm breath grazed her neck, the faint scent of burning herbs mingled with the natural fragrance of her skin. Then, slowly, he drew back just enough to look at her. His hands remained at her waist, and his deep, moonlit-like eyes fixed on hers. Sai, he murmured, the tone low, almost too tender for the way he usually faced the world. Before she could answer, he leaned in and kissed her again. Her fingers tightened slightly against his chest, and for a moment she returned the kiss as though trying to etch it into her very soul. When they finally parted, both were breathing unevenly, the air between them warm and heavy with something indescribable. Renzu kept his gaze on her, a faint smile playing on his lips. If you truly want a child, he began, voice calm yet firm. I have no objection. The little demon empress stared at him in surprise, eyes flickering, but he continued before she could react. But first, I need more power. He lifted a hand, gently brushing her cheek with his thumb across her cheek. I need enough strength to protect you, and if we are to have a child, then I will protect both of you. He didn't say it with arrogance. His words were simple and direct, as though stating an immutable fact already decided in his heart long ago. And it was the absolute truth. He would only consider having children once he stood at the absolute pinnacle of this world, when no enemy could threaten him and every problem in the primal chaos was resolved. Until then, the very idea of an heir felt absurd, not from lack of desire, but because he could not bear the constant shadow of someone stronger appearing to take everything he loved. Even villains have families they care about. The little demon empress looked away, but the blush returned to her ears, visible even under the silver moonlight. Her once cold, steady hands lightly clutched the sleeves of his robe, as if seeking an anchor amid her own emotions. You say such things so easily, she murmured, trying to hide the faint tremor in her voice. Because they're true. Renzu leaned in again, lips almost brushing hers, and whispered, and I don't make a habit of lying to my wife. Her gaze lifted instinctively to meet his. She sighed, inwardly surrendering, and murmured in reply, then don't make me wait too long. Renzu smiled, a calm smile filled with silent promise. It won't be long. A few years at most, he said quietly, voice steady yet wrapped in reassuring warmth. We now have all the time in the world. You're no longer bound by those 3 years, so there's no need to worry. The little demon empress fell silent for long seconds after those words, her face gradually returning to the serene, unreadable mask that defined her. The eyes that had wavered with barely contained emotion grew calm once more, deep, unfathomable, like a lake frozen in eternal winter. She simply gazed at him, saying nothing. Moonlight spilled over them, and for an instant Renzu caught the silver gleam in her eyes, as though the ice had melted for a heartbeat only to refreeze immediately after. Very well, husband, she murmured at last, her tone light, almost emotionless. You have already proven it. There is no further reason to doubt. She fell silent and turned her gaze to the sky, where distant stars glimmered like scattered embers. She didn't know what she felt. Gratitude? Warmth? Something more? Perhaps all of it at once. Her heart felt numb, heavy, as though memories and long-buried sensations were flowing back, reviving emotions she had locked away eons ago. Her husband truly was the one who had helped her the most. Renzu watched her silence, that distant look, and simply smiled. A serene smile with a mischievous glint hidden at the corners of his mouth. Then we're in agreement, he said softly, tilting his head, voice low and carrying a playful undertone. But just because we'll have to wait a little. He deliberately let the silence stretch, his dark, calm eyes locking with hers. His smile widened slightly, now more teasing, more mischievously restrained. Doesn't mean we can't practice making one until then. The little demon empress stared at him, eyes flickering between disbelief and exasperation. A furious blush exploded across her face, painting her ears and neck a shade of pink the moonlight only made more vivid. "Why you?" she began, but the words dissolved before they could form. Her icy composure, her untouchable majesty. Everything shattered for a moment beneath his brazen gaze, especially as she remembered those 500 times they had already practiced over the past few months. Ranzu leaned in, voice husky and low, close enough for his warm breath to graze the sensitive skin of her neck. "Don't look at me like that, Sai. You were the one who first mentioned leaving an heir." She clenched her fists, torn between anger and mortification, unsure which feeling burned stronger. When she finally spoke, her voice was low yet still carried that imperial pride even he couldn't fully erase. "This empress did not mean it in that sense." Renzu only chuckled softly, the sound warm and teasing. "Of course not," he answered with delicate irony. "But no need to explain yourself." Before she could retort, he simply swept her into his arms, ignoring the startled glare she shot him. "Husband, just what do you think you're doing?" she exclaimed, trying to sound stern, but the tremor in her eyes betrayed her. "Carrying my wife home," he replied with a lazy smile, eyes half-lidded, as if the teasing came as naturally as breathing. "It's late, and I don't want my empress catching a cold." "You!" Whatever protest she had vanished as he carried her through the garden, his footsteps on the grass mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. He paid no heed anyway. In moments, he had carried her all the way back to their chambers. /n. "Hey, everyone, what did you think about the development between those two in this chapter?" "Honestly, I'm really satisfied with how it turned out. I think I managed to convey their bond and chemistry in a natural way. It was one of those rare moments when the writing just flows, you know? The scenes practically write themselves, and the dialogues come out so naturally that I even start thinking, damn, should I turn this into a romance instead of a harem? And that's coming from someone who's a big fan of harems. I truly feel like these two have something special. It's not just attraction or a simple couple dynamic, it feels like there's a genuine connection. Something that goes beyond the cliché and makes everything more engaging. It's easy to write when the characters feel alive, when their emotions are so real that I end up getting lost in the story along with them. I think that's why this chapter came out so full of emotion. It had a lot more heart than planning behind it. By the way, this chapter was written specifically to tie up some loose ends and give you all a breather before the next phase. Think of it as a brief moment of calm before the storm. And yes, I'm already preparing what's coming next. Now tell me, would you prefer the next chapter to have a lemon? Or should I skip that part and move straight on with the story? I want to hear your opinion before I decide. If you want to read up to chapter 60 of this story, check it out on my Patreon. For just $5.99, you get access to all my content, including more than 50 extra chapters, exclusive, not posted anywhere else, over 30 chapters of Patreon-exclusive stories, plus early access to future updates. My Patreon, patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 43. Chapter 43, The Little Demon Empress's Decision. The morning light filtered through the silk curtains, bathing the room in soft golden hues. The silence was comfortable, broken only by the distant sound of the wind gently brushing against the windows and doors of the house. Renzu slowly opened his eyes, blinking to chase away the lingering drowsiness. The first thing he saw was the serene face of the little demon empress, partially hidden beneath the immaculate white sheet that enveloped them. Her long black hair spread across the pillow like strands of gleaming obsidian under the warm rays of sunlight streaming through the window, lending an ethereal glow to her silhouette. Her delicate, curvaceous body was only partially covered by the thin sheet, which softly molded to her curves. A portion of her left breast lay exposed, revealing pale, smooth skin, with half of her rosy, sensitive nipple visible, like a delicate petal at dawn. Her slender, toned right thigh also escaped the covering, pressed instinctively against his own as she nestled beside him on the wide bed, her slender arms still wrapped around him with a subtle, affectionate possessiveness. The air carried a faint scent of wildflowers mingled with the lingering warmth of their intertwined bodies, making the moment even more intimate and vivid in his newly awakened mind. She slept deeply, and for a moment, he simply lay there, watching her in silence. After yet another passionate night with his wife, he felt both body and mind enveloped in a profound sense of tranquility. Renzu let out a small sigh. "Sleeping so deeply, you almost seem like a normal girl," he murmured to himself, a faint smile curving his lips. He rose carefully until he was sitting on the edge of the bed, making no noise. The sheet slid from his bare chest, revealing pale skin and perfectly defined muscles. He stretched, his tense muscles relaxing, and glanced out the window. It was still very early morning. For a moment, Renzu considered simply lying back down and enjoying the quiet of the morning. However, when he looked once more at the little demon empress, peaceful and serene in her sleep, a different idea came to him. Remembering how much she enjoyed the food he prepared, he decided to make something special for when she awoke. With slow, silent steps, he stood, dressed leisurely, and walked down the corridor to the small kitchen of their home. The space was still wrapped in soft dimness, and the faint sound of his footsteps blended with the tranquil silence of the morning. Renzu selected a few ripe spiritual fruits that exuded an ethereal sweet fragrance, a jar of refined honey with a viscous golden glow, and a handful of fresh aromatic leaves known for relieving fatigue. He chose them carefully, knowing that the little demon empress, exhausted from the intense exertion of the previous night, needed something to restore her physical energy. With precise, patient movements, he cut the fruits into uniform pieces. Their juice dripped slightly, staining the wooden board with vibrant shades of red and amber. The leaves were gently crushed, releasing an invigorating aroma that mingled with the sweetness of the honey as he poured it into a polished ceramic bowl. As he worked, steam began to rise from the kettle on the stone stove, spreading a gentle warmth through the room. The comforting scent of the herbs and warmed honey filled the air, blending with the soft crackle of the fire. "Perfect," he murmured, pouring the tea onto a jade tray. Minutes later, he returned to the bedroom. The little demon empress was still asleep, lying on her side, her hair fanned across the pillow. The sight made him smile again. Not the cold, ironic smile he wore for the world, but a genuine, tranquil, almost rare one. He set the tray on the bedside table and approached, sitting beside her in a nearby chair. "Sai," he called softly. "Wake up. I made something for you." She stirred slightly, her long lashes fluttering before her eyes opened. A soft, sleepy sound escaped her lips. "Husband? Who else would be here?" He replied in a light, amused tone. "Get up. The tea will get cold." The little demon empress blinked several times, her eyes still adjusting to the light. When she noticed the tray and caught the tea's aroma, she raised an eyebrow in surprise. "You made this?" Renzu nodded, resting his chin on his hand. "Of course. Someone had to reward the empress for last night's efforts." Her gaze wavered for a moment, and an almost imperceptible blush rose to her cheeks. "You talk too much first thing in the morning," she muttered, looking away as memories of the wicked things that Beast had forced her to do flooded back. Renzu chuckled softly. "Then drink it before I change my mind." She delicately took the cup, watching the steam rise. For a moment, she was silent, simply savoring the aroma, before taking a small sip. The sweet yet slightly bitter taste spread across her tongue, and warmth coursed through her body. "It's good," she finally said in a low voice. "Naturally," he replied, pride gleaming in his eyes. The morning unfolded in rare serenity, wrapped in a light, almost domestic atmosphere. The two of them enjoyed that time together like a true newlywed couple. Despite her usual proud, cold, and imposing temperament, the little demon empress began to reveal a different side. Her tone grew softer when speaking to him, her gestures gentler, and the way she looked at him made it clear that, little by little, she was coming to see him not merely as a partner by fate, but as a real husband. Still, emotional honesty had never been her strong suit. Whenever her heart wavered, she fell back on her mask of coldness and arrogance, trying to hide what she truly felt. It was almost amusing, even though she was an empress feared throughout the entire illusory demon realm. In front of him she behaved like a textbook tsundere. He had noticed these tendencies in her long before that day, but now they were even more evident. The difference lay in how she had treated him since yesterday. She had stopped calling him merely Renzu, and, with surprising naturalness, began addressing him as husband. For someone like her, that was not a simple gesture of affection, but a genuine demonstration of trust and acceptance. It was her proud way of saying that, despite her cold demeanor and harsh words, he had claimed an irremovable place in her heart. After she finished the tea, Renzu simply remained there, watching her with the serene air of someone in no hurry. The little demon empress set the cup down and leaned back against the pillows, her gaze fixed on the ceiling for a few moments. "You woke up far too early. This empress is still a little tired," she commented, her voice soft and still somewhat sleepy. Renzu gave a faint smile, his relaxed tone contrasting with the calm of the morning. "If you want to sleep more, Sai, feel free. But as an empress, don't you think you're being a bit lazy?" He teased lightly. "Don't you have duties or something as the ruler of the illusory demon realm?" The little demon empress sighed. settling more comfortably beneath the sheet before replying. Most of the matters this empress must handle concern the extermination of the remaining traitors, but everything is being resolved without major issues. She paused briefly, glancing at him sideways, her gaze carrying a cold glint yet no real irritation. So I have a few days off, though I'll need to return later to check on progress. It's rare for this empress to be able to rest, and even rarer to have peace while doing so. I think in the past century, I've never had a morning like this. Her voice, normally firm and authoritative, sounded lower, almost melancholic. This empress has already fulfilled her vengeance. I avenged my father and brother, and restored my family's power over the illusory demon realm. All of this empress's goals have been accomplished, so I can enjoy a moment like this. Rinzhu remained silent for a moment, surprised by the unexpected vulnerability before him. The little demon empress, always impassive, ruthless, and commanding, was letting a trace of melancholy show, something he never imagined witnessing so closely. He suddenly realized with crystal clarity that this world was not merely a novel he had read in his previous life. Those distant stories, characters, and events, everything paled in comparison to the intensity he felt now. This was reality, and it was impossible to deny. The woman before him had changed because of him. Everything they had shared over the past months had shaped her personality, allowing her to open up in a way that had never been possible before. It was not just a simple variation from the original work, something predictable or superficial like her becoming one of Yunche's wives and then being ignored by the author afterward. Then enjoy it. After a brief smile, he finally replied, crossing his arms. I'm truly glad I could give you this, Sai really. She blushed faintly at his affectionate tone but quickly regained her composure and huffed. It's your responsibility as the husband this empress chose. Yes, yes, my dear empress, Rinzhu said, rolling his eyes. A tranquil silence followed. She was the one who broke it first. The coronation. Rinzhu raised an eyebrow, already anticipating the topic. I want to hold a ceremony for your coronation as the new emperor beside this empress. Husband. The little demon empress continued. This time, the entire illusory demon realm will be summoned. All the palaces, all the guardian families. Everyone will witness the new demon emperor. Rinzhu turned his gaze to the window, where the gentle morning light illuminated the garden herbs, making them shimmer like tiny jewels. Emperor, huh? He murmured calmly, almost disinterested. I don't think it's necessary. Honestly, I'd prefer something simple. That kind of ceremony has never appealed to me. It was true. Although in the past he had seriously considered becoming emperor of the illusory demon realm when thinking of winning the little demon empress, he had never been drawn to the idea of a coronation ceremony. Customs and formalities always seemed tedious to him. He preferred spending his time refining pills, cultivating, or solving real problems rather than getting lost in empty protocols and politics. A bit contradictory, perhaps, given the ambition that once drove him, but far more true to his nature of having many goals and not wanting to waste time on such things. The little demon empress observed him in silence for a moment, her dark eyes reflecting a subtle blend of affection and stubbornness. I know, from everything I've learned by watching you, husband, I knew that would be your answer, she said firmly yet with deep meaning. But a coronation ceremony is not just about showing that you will stand beside me as ruler of the illusory demon realm. It also makes clear that you were chosen by the divine Golden Crow God and thereby gain the legitimacy needed to be recognized as a member of the royal family. That way, everyone will understand that our bloodline will continue to rule the illusory demon realm, and that an heir from the two of us will be the future emperor when we decide to retire. In this way, any dissatisfaction regarding lineage, or even the fact that you come from one of the guardian families, will cease to exist. Everyone will understand that your position is not merely a personal choice, but a decision backed by the divine Golden Crow God itself, solidifying your role at my side. Although most can probably guess because of the incident a few days ago when you used the Golden Crow flames, there has been no official announcement that many are still awaiting. Although he lacked deep familiarity with politics from his modern world origins, he was no fool. Every word from the little demon empress made perfect sense, and he fully understood the implications behind ceremonies, protocols, and hierarchies. He knew that even without direct experience, he needed to proceed with caution and intelligence to navigate that complex system and be a good emperor. Being a good emperor was not limited to occupying the throne or flaunting a title above all. It meant understanding that true power arises from the balance between personal strength, authority, wisdom, and responsibility. A wise ruler views their kingdom broadly, understanding not only politics and laws but also the hearts and desires of their people. To earn respect and loyalty, one must first deeply know those they lead. Allies, advisors, even enemies. Listening carefully, questioning ideas, and making considered decisions prevents unnecessary conflicts and strengthens trust. An emperor does not rule alone. They must know how to delegate responsibilities, recognize talent, and maintain a network of trust capable of acting even in their absence. Moreover, strategic vision is indispensable. An effective emperor anticipates problems before they arise, plans for the long term, and balances tradition with innovation. They know that every political action, alliance, and reform affects not only the present but shapes the future of the kingdom and the dynasty itself. He was really diving headfirst into this new role, wasn't he? So it's more politics than celebration. While thinking all this through, he replied with a faint ironic smile. Perhaps, she admitted, her fingers idly tracing the rim of the empty cup. Husband, this way you will officially enter the Demon Emperor clan. After that, you will belong to my Demon Emperor clan. That way, the children we have must bear the surname Huh. I have no problem joining the Demon Emperor clan, since I was adopted by the Yun family, and my parents have no issue with it. I already discussed this possibility with them yesterday when they revealed the truth to me. But as for our children bearing the surname Huan, I'm afraid that's not possible. Renzu said with a shrug, explaining calmly. What do you mean, not possible? The little demon empress shot him a sideways glance. Renzu leaned back slightly in the chair, resting one arm on the bed's headboard, his calm, almost indifferent gaze settling on her. His eyes held that quiet, nearly disdainful glint, as if evaluating something trivial, and his voice was firm yet filled with unshakable conviction. Not because I see no need to change something so naturally mine just to follow traditions or conventions, he said, gesturing lightly with his hand in an almost lazy motion. A child's surname doesn't define who they will become. It's not a detail from the past that must shape their future. Whether it's Huan or something else, it changes nothing that truly matters. That they are mine and yours, that they carry our strength and our values. That is what really counts. The rest is just words written on paper. I don't care about that. The little demon empress stared at him in silence, her brow furrowed for a moment as she tried to discern whether he truly didn't care, or if there was something deeper behind that apparent indifference. So, you're saying the children can choose their own path, regardless of everything? She murmured, her voice low, carrying a mix of surprise and an emotion difficult to put into words. Renzu merely tilted his head slightly, an almost imperceptible smile appearing at the corners of his lips. Something like that, he said calmly but firmly. We'll have to discuss it thoroughly in the future, but I don't want our children burdened with responsibilities just because they bear the surname Huan, forced to inherit the throne if they don't wish to. If they want nothing more than a simple, happy life, we, as their parents, will support them, no matter what they choose. He paused, looking at her with a gentle smile. If they want to use Huan, great. If not, also great. It doesn't matter to me. What truly matters is that they are ours. Everything else is just detail. The little demon empress fell silent for several moments, absorbing every word. Her dark eyes, which usually gleamed with coldness, now held a trace of emotion she rarely allowed to surface. You really think that way? She murmured, genuine surprise mixed with something close to tenderness in her voice. But behind this empress stands the Demon Emperor clan after all, and this empress is the last of the Demon Emperor clan. This matter is beyond even this empress's control. Renzu briefly looked away toward the sunlit garden before returning his focus to her. His tone remained calm, almost indifferent, yet firm, carrying the quiet pride that always accompanied him. I know, Tsai, he said serenely. That's why I said we can discuss our children's matter later. What really matters now is deciding about our marriage. Besides, who can predict what the future holds? Once we crush any resistance to our rule, with our strength and union, who would dare complain about something as simple as the name of our descendants? We can do something balanced. Our son could carry my surname and our daughter yours. That changes nothing of what truly matters between us. The little demon empress quickly looked away, her lips pressing into a thin line. For a moment, silence reigned in the room, broken only by the distant sound of wind through the curtains and the faint creaking of wood under the rising sun's warmth. Then she huffed, that characteristic sound Renzu had learned to interpret as a dangerous mix of feigned irritation and genuine embarrassment. Humph, don't think this empress is moved by your pretty words, husband, she said, crossing her arms beneath the sheet, her tone deliberately cold. You speak as though you're some enlightened sage detached from everything, but deep down you're just trying to dodge the responsibility of following the Demon Emperor clan's traditions. Renzu raised an eyebrow, a playful smile dancing on his lips. Oh, of course. Because planning a future where our children are free is the height of irresponsibility. Don't twist this empress's words, she retorted quickly, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I'm only saying that certain things are inevitable. If you are truly to be the emperor at my side, your name must be recorded as part of the clan. That is necessary to maintain order among the guardian families and the Huan clan. Renzu tilted his head, pretending to consider it. I see. So the most feared empress in the entire illusory demon realm is worried about what the mere heads of the guardian families will think? Her eyes widened for a second before she clenched her fist beneath the sheet. You! Yes, he teased, his tone soft and provoking. You really enjoy testing this empress's patience, don't you? She fixed him with a sharp glare. Don't think that just because this empress accepted you as husband, you can say whatever you want. Renzu gave a light laugh, crossing his arms. But you yourself said last night that I should be more direct. That was a different situation. She snapped, turning her face away abruptly, blush flooding her cheeks. Don't mix things up. His smile widened, genuinely amused. I see. Different situations, Stop laughing. She pulled the sheet up to her chin, as if that could hide her embarrassment, but it only caused the fabric to slip further, revealing more of her pale shoulders and the skin that contrasted with the white cloth. Realizing it, she gasped and yanked the sheet back, shooting him a deadly glare. You did that on purpose. Renzu raised his hands in surrender, though the mischievous glint in his eyes betrayed him. Me? I would never dare deceive Her Majesty. Humph. Say whatever you want. She muttered, still looking away, but her voice had softened, more embarrassed than angry. Just know that this empress will not be moved by your words or gestures, even if what you said about our children wasn't entirely foolish. Renzu arched an eyebrow. Oh? So the great empress is admitting I might be right. I didn't say that. She countered immediately, blush returning to her cheeks. I only acknowledged that your words weren't completely absurd. That's all. He let out a low laugh, the kind that left her even more irritated yet strangely speechless. I understand. So, for the record, the Empress's husband managed to say something that wasn't totally foolish. Renzu! She sat up abruptly, the sheet slipping a little further as she fixed him with the authoritative glare that had once terrified countless elders and patriarchs. If you keep mocking this Empress, I swear that. But before she could finish, he leaned forward slightly, his smile fading into a calm, gentle expression. You'll what? He asked softly, his voice low, close enough that the warmth of his breath brushed her face. For an instant, the little demon Empress's gaze wavered. She froze, the words dying in her throat. Her heart, which normally remained as cold as 10,000-year glaciers, raced, and she hated how naturally he could make it do that. You're impossible, she murmured at last, looking away. Completely impossible. Renzu smiled and leaned back in the chair again, satisfied. And yet here I am, the impossible husband of the impossible Empress. I think we match quite well, don't you? Maybe, just this once. This Empress will agree with you. Just this once. Don't get used to it. Renzu chuckled softly. We'll see, my dear Empress. She crossed her arms again, feigning disdain. A part of her, the part that fought to maintain composure and pride, couldn't help remembering the night before, after yet another round of passionate, addictive love. When their bodies and souls seemed to have fused in a rhythm that had completely addicted her, his words had left her even more thoughtful about her attitude toward him. That was why she didn't mind being teased by him now if it had been before. With her former cruel demeanor, she would already have taught him a lesson. Her pride whispered that she needed to stay in control, that an empress should not let herself be ruled by emotions. But her heart betrayed her reason, burning with a tenderness she had never known how to express. No matter how much she wanted to deny it, no matter how her proud and haughty nature refused to admit it, she had already crossed the line that separated the cold, merciless empress from the woman who, for the first time in all eternity, truly loved someone. /N. If you want to read up to chapter 60 of the story, check it out on my Patreon. For just $5.99, you get access to all my content, including more than 50 extra chapters, exclusive, not posted anywhere else, over 30 chapters of Patreon-exclusive stories, plus early access to future updates. My Patreon, patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 44. Chapter 44, Punishing the Unrighteous. 3 days later, the Grand Demon Imperial Hall, which had been nearly destroyed, had undergone just enough repairs to be usable again. The little demon empress immediately summoned a meeting, attended only by the traitors. The Hellion clan, which had managed to retain its position as a chief clan, led by Hellion Kwang. Every single one of its top members was kneeling in the center of the hall. They weren't even granted seats. All the experts who had defected to Duke Huai's palace, whether from guardian families, duke palaces, other powers, or unmatched individual experts, were obediently kneeling there, trembling in fear under the frigid might of the little demon empress who had summoned them, without even stating the reason for the summons. Not one of them dared make a sound, not even a fart escaped them. They were like criminals awaiting sentencing. No, they were exactly that. Criminals! At this moment, the little demon empress's gaze turned toward them. Her originally calm eyes turned ice-cold in a fraction of a second. Though none of the kneeling people dared raise their heads, the pressure radiating from the little demon empress felt like the coldest blade pressed against their throats, causing their entire bodies to shudder uncontrollably. That pressure forced them to lower their heads even further, not daring to take a deep breath. This empress ordered you to exterminate the 9 clans of Duke Huai within 10 days. 7 days have passed, how far have you progressed? The tone the little demon empress used was so degrading it nearly suffocated them. She didn't direct the question at anyone in particular, and the patriarchs kneeling at the front scrambled to be the first to answer. Our reporting to the little demon empress. Of the 4 clans under Duke Huai's father, the 3 clans under his mother, and the 2 clans under his wife, all of them have been wiped out. Not a single soul remains. Those stationed outside the capital have all been eliminated. May the little demon empress rest assured. The corpses, as the little demon empress instructed, were publicly burned in front of the city gates. Not even a blade of grass was left behind. We would naturally never dare delay the little demon empress's orders. Helian Kwang frantically pulled out a bundle of jade strips and raised them with both hands. Below Duke Huai's palace there was still a secret chamber that had yet to be destroyed. This jade strip was found inside. It records the fallen flame demonic art. The little demon empress wields divine power, so naturally this fallen flame demonic art is not worthy of entering your eyes. However, it does record a certain blood escape technique. Most likely, Duke Ming used it in an attempt to flee that day. The little demon empress's brows twitched. She extended her hand, and the jade strip in Helian Kwang's grasp flew straight into hers. She immediately opened it. Sure enough, a strange blood escape technique was displayed within. She scanned through it indifferently, then closed it. Little demon empress. This Bai made a discovery while eliminating some surviving members of Duke Huai's palace. Bai hurriedly stepped forward, raising an even larger jade strip with both hands. This jade strip was retrieved from a secret chamber beneath Duke Huai's palace. Engraved upon it are all. At this point, Bai forcefully swallowed, then continued. All the names of those who defected to Duke Huai's palace. May the little demon empress please take a look. The hearts of many present violently shuddered, cold sweat poured from their entire bodies. There is no need for this empress to look. Yet the little demon empress didn't even glance at the jade strip and spoke in a low voice. Deliver this name list to Duke Xing Palace. Then issue a command. Within 3 days, everyone whose name appears on the list must write a confession of guilt in their own blood and hang it on the northernmost city wall for public display for 3 years. In doing so, this empress will pardon them this once and will not pursue the matter further. However, if after 3 days any name on the list has not displayed their blood confession on the city wall, they will be treated the same as Duke Huai's kin. Exterminated without mercy. Another blood-drenched decree, like that of a death god, issued from the little demon empress's mouth, instantly turning the entire grand hall ice-cold. This was because her order was brilliantly ruthless. Aside from Bai Yi, no one else should have seen whose names were actually on the list. Even though the jade strip was large, it could not possibly be complete. Yet the decree of exterminate without mercy crushed any fanciful hope that anyone who had colluded with Duke Huai's palace might still harbor. They would obediently confess, using their own blood to expose themselves on the city walls. In this way, every defector whose betrayal had remained hidden would be clearly revealed. Yet the members of the guardian families and duke palaces all breathed huge sighs of relief. To be forgiven with only a blood-written confession was nothing short of a joyous turn of events. But just as they let out that massive breath of relief, the little demon empress's next words made their hearts leap into their throats. As for those from the guardian families and duke palaces on the list, forget about writing a blood confession. The little demon empress's tone suddenly turned severe. Others following Duke Huai's orders can be seen as merely going with the flow. But for you, the pillars and beams of the illusory demon realm, to rebel against the demon emperor lineage is nothing less than treacherous. It is an unforgivable crime. If you were pardoned so easily, how could this empress face the citizens of the illusory demon realm? How could she face the ancestors who brought peace to the illusory demon realm we enjoy today? It was as if icy water from a frozen purgatory had been poured over them. The 7 patriarchs and dukes turned cold from head to toe. An elderly monarch cried out through tears. Little demon empress, this humble duke knows his sins, but the accumulated crimes of Duke Huai's palace this duke truly had no knowledge. There is no need to say more. The little demon empress coldly cut him off, stood up, and slammed her hand onto her imperial throne. With a loud boom, the imperial throne shifted to the right, and a hidden stone door slowly opened. Behind the stone door lay a spacious yet dark chamber. This rarely opened stone chamber was used only occasionally when discussing top-secret matters. This time, she would use it to deal with the traitors just as she had spoken privately with old ancestor Rin earlier. All of you remain here and await this empress's orders. The little demon empress's voice rang out cold and emotionless, carrying absolute authority. None of the patriarchs or dukes dared raise their heads. The uniform sound of dozens of suppressed breaths was the only reply. Without another word, she stepped forward and vanished into the stone chamber. Though the stone chamber was open, a thick, opaque barrier had been erected by the little demon empress the instant she entered. Not only did the barrier prevent anyone from clearly seeing inside, it completely isolated all sound. Yet from behind it emanated a distinct, chilling murderous aura that would make even a monarch tremble in fear. It wasn't long before her deep voice pierced through the barrier and resounded throughout the demon imperial hall. "Duke Xian, come see this empress." The little demon empress's icy voice echoed through the hall, turning every face deathly pale. She had called only Duke Xian, which also meant she would not deal with all these kneeling criminals at once. Instead, she would speak to each of them privately. Everyone present felt their hearts pound violently. Facing the little demon empress together had given them a slight sense of camaraderie, but a private summons. They would do anything to lessen their crimes and reveal everything they knew about the other's sins. To survive, they would sell out anyone, swear anything, and no one except the little demon empress would ever know what another had said or promised. So they wouldn't even know who had betrayed whom. Moreover, if anyone held anything back or failed to prove their loyalty sufficiently, it was highly likely they would be made an example of by the little demon empress. Given her current power, killing any one of them would be as easy as crushing an insect. In that instant, those already drenched in sweat began sweating even more profusely as they frantically tried to think of what they should say. In that brief span of time, any plan they had made to present a united front and cover for one another quietly collapsed amid the terrifying, desolate atmosphere. Duke Xian, the first to be summoned, trembled in fear as he stood. Under the gazes of everyone present, he walked step by step toward the stone chamber. In the short distance of less than 200 steps, he nearly collapsed to the ground at least 3 separate times. Each step felt like he was approaching an endless abyss. Duke Xian was a short, plump man with a sincere smile. But in just these 4 short days, he had visibly withered. The moment he entered the stone chamber, he collapsed to his knees, his entire body shaking like a leaf. This insignificant duke. Gr greets the little demon empress. This insignificant duke knows he has sinned, but it was only this insignificant duke who erred. Even my wife advised me never to get involved with Duke Huai. Yet this insignificant duke lost his mind. The rest of my duke palace truly had no part in it. I beg the little demon empress to kill only this insignificant duke. The others in my duke palace truly know nothing. They were merely dragged into this by this insignificant duke. I beg the little demon empress to show mercy and spare my family. After this insignificant duke is executed, I will be eternally grateful. I only beg the little demon empress to show mercy. Duke Xian's entire body continued to tremble as he wailed violently, his face filled with a mixture of extreme regret and terror. While desperately pleading with the little demon empress, he had already performed countless kowtows, slamming his forehead against the floor so hard that it was now covered in blood. Did this empress say she wanted to kill you? Do you desire death that badly? The little demon empress asked coldly. Duke Xian raised his head, his expression blank. He could scarcely believe the words he had just heard. Humph! The little demon empress gave a cold snort and continued in a solemn voice. Although your Duke Xian palace has made no significant contributions in the past 100 years, you have also committed no grave errors. What was truly rare was that when this empress's power had weakened and the majority of the duke palaces secretly defected to Duke Huai, your Duke Xian palace never betrayed or abandoned this empress. Even if you did join forces with Duke Huai, it was only because you believed this empress had died, and it was the only way to ensure your palace's safety. Duke Xian, you bear guilt. But this empress also bears guilt. My guilt lies in having been too weak, so weak that those loyal to this empress were subjected to continuous abuse and humiliation by those traitors and renegades. Moreover, during the 100 years of this empress's decline, you never once thought to betray or abandon me. Instead, you remained loyal, and that alone is enough to offset more than 4 months of transgression. So you may rise. Duke Xian's expression was dazed. Tears filling his eyes, he dared not believe a single word he had just heard. Ever since the little demon empress returned, every glance from her felt like being thrown into an icy abyss. Every word carried bone-chilling killing intent. Every order seemed to make rivers of blood flow through the demon imperial city streets. As a sinner, he had not slept for 7 whole days. Each day was filled with fear and dread, and he had already prepared his own coffin. His greatest wish was to preserve his wife and his Duke Palace. Yet who would have thought that when his turn came to be judged by the little demon empress, not only was there not a trace of killing intent, he was not even condemned. Instead, he was praised. It was as if he had been instantly lifted from the depths of hell straight into heaven. Duke Xian's eyes overflowed with tears, and he did not stand. Instead, he collapsed to the floor and prostrated himself. He wept loudly as he spoke. This insignificant Duke thanks the little demon empress for her divine mercy. This insignificant Duke received royal favor yet repaid it with treachery. Just this alone is enough for me to die 1,000 times. But the little demon empress's divine mercy is as vast as the heavens. This insignificant Duke has no way to repay it. The only thing this insignificant Duke can do is swear eternal loyalty and devotion to you, constant even in death. Should I ever show even the slightest hint of betrayal again, may the heavens strike me down. There is no need for further words. Rise. The little demon empress casually waved her hand. Your wife and children are surely dying of worry in your palace. Return quickly to them and ease their fears. You are dismissed. I thank the little demon empress for her divine mercy. I thank the little demon empress for her divine mercy. Duke Xian rose trembling, but this time, he trembled from gratitude. He remained bowed as he backed away, unable to stop thanking her. Even after his feet had stepped beyond the barrier, he still did not cease. I thank the little demon empress for her divine mercy. I thank the little demon empress for her divine mercy. The people kneeling in the grand hall watched Duke Xian hurry out. Not a single wound on his body, his face flushed with excitement and gratitude, his mouth still uttering endless thanks. Duke Xian. Some tried to speak to him, but Duke Xian paid no one any attention. Instead, he turned and swiftly left the hall. Yet everyone could clearly see that while his expression was one of relief, there was also hidden joy. Could the little demon empress have actually pardoned him? Everyone exchanged bewildered glances, but Duke Xian had emerged unscathed. His face full of joy and disbelief. This eased the pressure on their hearts many times over. The miserable fate of Duke Huai's palace had left them so anxious they could barely function. Moreover, every moment spent in the little demon empress's presence filled them with overwhelming terror, and their minds could not help but conjure countless horrific scenarios. Yet Duke Xian had been inside for only a few moments and had clearly been forgiven in the end. They began to feel that perhaps their sheer terror had been overblown. That's right, after all, they all belonged to guardian families and duke palaces. They were the pillars supporting the illusory demon realm. The illusory demon realm had just undergone such a massive upheaval, so its foundations and supports were even more untouchable at this time. Among all the duke palaces, Duke Xian's was already among the weakest, and his palace couldn't even compare to the guardian families. Yet he was safe and sound. As long as they exerted every effort to repent and prove their loyalty, the little demon empress would surely go with the flow and absolve them. At most, they would receive a warning. With that thought, everyone's hearts immediately calmed considerably, and even the atmosphere in the grand hall no longer felt so suffocating and oppressive. Hellion Kuang, enter. The little demon empress's voice pierced through the barrier and rang out from the stone chamber this time. It summoned the patriarch of the Hellion family, Hellion Kuang. Patriarch. Several core elders of the Hellion family looked at Hellion Kuang with worried expressions. Do not worry. After all, I am the patriarch of a guardian family. Nothing will happen to me. Hellion Kuang took a deep breath and walked toward the stone chamber. The moment he entered, a bone-piercing chill assaulted him. Sending shivers through his entire body, he involuntarily trembled. Hellion Kuang did not dare meet the little demon empress's eyes. Instead, he hurriedly knelt and said, This sinner Hellion Kuang greets the little demon empress. You may rise. The little demon empress's voice was incomparably calm, without the slightest fluctuation in emotion. She glanced at the stone seat to her right and said, Sit. There was no killing intent, no anger, not even a trace of oppression, and he didn't even need to kneel. All of this calmed Hellion Kuang's heart. He slowly stood and cautiously moved to the stone seat. The little demon empress extended her hand, and a pristine white jade teacup appeared in her palm. With a flick of her wrist, the teacup rose into the air as if carried by a gentle breeze, floated over, and landed on the stone table in front of Hellion Kuang. Patriarch Hellion, please have some tea. The white jade cup was flawless, but its contents were empty. Not a single drop of tea was inside. Yet how would Hellion Kuang dare show even the slightest hint of disagreement? Even if the little demon empress declared right now that he was a dog, he would bark a few times in response. He lifted the cup with both hands, brought it to his lips, carefully tilted his head back, and pretended to slowly savor the tea. Only after a long moment did he lower the cup with utmost care. Have you finished drinking? The little demon empress's eyes narrowed slightly, but her words were gentle. Helian Kwang hurriedly cupped his fists and said, Yes. The rich and mellow fragrance of this tea belongs only to the heavens. I thank the little demon empress for this drink. Since the tea has been savored, the little demon empress's eyes flashed faintly. Then you may depart on your journey with a peaceful mind. As her words fell, the little demon empress had already stepped through space and appeared suddenly before Helian Kwang like a demon from hell. A delicate hand, fair as snow jade, carrying flames that seemed to pour from the infernal cracks of hell itself, struck heavily into Helian Kwang's chest. Wild, violent golden crow flames erupted madly throughout his body in a single instant. All his internal organs were completely incinerated. Ugh! Helian Kwang's eyes widened rigidly as the world spun around him. Boom! A deafening explosion rang out, and Helian Kwang's body was hurled out of the stone chamber, crashing violently into the crowd of kneeling people. When he landed on the floor, his eyes stared wide at the ceiling. No sound came from him. Moreover, on his chest was a horrific black burn mark. Patriarch! Patriarch! The core elders of the Helian family who were gathered cried out in alarm and rushed forward. But not even a sliver of life remained in Helian Kwang's body. A pungent, acrid smell of charred flesh wafted from his corpse. His death could not have been more complete. Patriarch! Staring at the body before them, the Helian family's core elders were scared senseless and could only stand there trembling. At that moment, the little demon empress's low, cold voice rang out from the stone chamber. Though he was the patriarch of a guardian family, Helian Kwang colluded with Duke Huai and plotted rebellion against the throne. His death was richly deserved. Furthermore, this punishment was originally meant to extend to the entire Helian family. However, because the Helian clan has faithfully served and protected the Demon Emperor clan for the past 10,000 years, this empress has decided to grant you a chance and give the Helian family an opportunity to start anew. Helian II, the Helian family's second elder, whose name had just been called, spasmed violently as he frantically turned and fell to his knees. From this day forward, you shall be the new patriarch of the Helian family. This empress orders you to drag Helian Kwang's carcass to the northern gate within 2 hours and hang it there. Let it be displayed publicly for 7 days, and during those 7 days, if anyone dares retrieve his body, plead for mercy, or publicly mourn him, execute that person on the spot. Furthermore, if anyone in your Helian family shows even the slightest hint of dissent, if this empress learns of it, I will kill that person. If any of you dare place your clan above my orders or show even the tiniest sign of disloyalty again, this empress will ensure that the name Helian no longer exists in this world. Every word the little demon empress uttered caused the terror in the hearts of the Helian family's core elders to skyrocket. But if one person's death could be exchanged for the safety of the entire Helian family, no one would be foolish enough to feel indignation over his death. Helian too said in a trembling voice, We will obey the little demon empress's commands. We thank the little demon empress for her mercy. From this day forward, the Helian family will remain steadfastly loyal to the little demon empress and gladly give our lives for you. Also, do not forget the purple veined divine crystals you owe the Yun family. Why yes, yes. Helian too dragged Helian Kwang's corpse away while his head bobbed frantically up and down. He hurriedly left, his steps faltering as if walking on the edge of a blade. Terror spread through the demon imperial hall like a plague. The slight relief they had felt after seeing Duke Xian emerge unscathed vanished completely in an instant, and every face turned so pale it was as if all the blood had been drained from them. For 10,000 years, the Helian family's status as a guardian family had been second only to the Yun family, yet Patriarch Helian Kwang, had been personally executed by the little demon empress. If that could happen to him, what fate awaited the other guardian families and duke palaces? Jufang Kuei, enter. All eyes turned toward the Jufang family. Jufang Kuei rose shakily, but the moment he managed to stand, his legs gave out and he fell to his knees once more. His bulging, wide eyes revealed the immense terror that had erupted in his heart. Helian Kwang's horrific death had planted a demon in his soul, because he was painfully aware that among the 12 guardian families, while the Helian family may have been the first to switch allegiance to Duke Huai's palace, his Jufang family had been the second. Moreover, the Jufang clan and Helian clan had originally been close due to their shared bloodline. They had intermarried across generations. She had just killed Helian Kwang and then called for him, Jufang Kuei. How could he not be terrified? /N. Consider supporting me on Patreon and reading up to 20 advanced chapters of each story. For just $5.99, you get access to all my content, including over 30 chapters of Patreon-exclusive stories, plus early access to future updates. My Patreon. Patreon.com/fanfictionnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 45. Chapter 45 Slave Mark or Death. Sinner Jufang Kue greets the little demon empress. The moment he stepped into the stone chamber, Jufang Kue dropped to his knees. Though he tried with all his might to remain composed, his voice still trembled with fear. Patriarch Jufang. The little demon empress's gaze fixed on him, cold as frost. Helian Kuang was the patriarch of the Helian family. Yet this empress killed him. As a patriarch of a guardian family, what is your opinion on this matter? Was this empress right to kill him, or not? Jufang Kue sucked in a sharp breath and said in panic. Helian Kuang was indeed a guardian patriarch, but he colluded with traitors, plotted rebellion, and abandoned both the grace of the Demon Emperor clan and the duty of his family as guardians. That kind of traitor should have been torn into 10,000 pieces long ago. The little demon empress was absolutely right to kill him, and it was good that he was killed. Very well. The little demon empress nodded slowly. Jufang Kue's answer seemed to please her. Then her voice suddenly turned ice cold. Then, are you prepared to kill yourself, or would you prefer this empress to do it personally? Her frigid tone and the killing intent behind it made every hair on Jufang Kue's body stand on end. He collapsed to the floor, screaming and begging, "Little demon empress, mercy! Little demon empress, mercy!" Before, I was bewitched by Helian Kuang and lost my mind was clouded for a moment. That is why I committed such a disloyal act. But I truly knew nothing of the shameless atrocities. The deeds that would enrage both men and gods, committed by those from Duke Huai Palace. The only reason I surrendered to Duke Huai Palace was for self-preservation. So that the Jufang family could have peace in the future. I swear here and now. From this day forward I will be utterly loyal to the little demon empress. I will treat the little demon empress's words as heavenly decree and absolutely harbor no further thoughts of betrayal, or else may I, Jufang Kue, be struck by lightning, split in two, and may my entire Jufang clan die without peace. With the barrier in place preventing anyone outside from seeing or hearing, and with his life hanging by a thread, how could Jufang Kue still care about a patriarch's dignity? He wailed, cursed himself with the vilest words, and groveled like any ordinary creature terrified of death. Perhaps even more pathetic. It seems Patriarch Jufang has the heart to rebel but lacks the courage to die. The little demon empress sneered in contempt. If you fear death so much, this empress can grant you a chance to live. Tell me everything you know about Duke Huai Palace and every shameless thing your Jufang family has done in the past 100 years. Especially the things this empress does not yet know. Confess everything completely. There must be no falsehoods or omissions. If your confession fails to satisfy this empress, the little demon empress continued, this empress will simply seal away your profound strength, and if later we discover anything false in what you said, or anything you omitted, you will end up in a state 10 times worse than Helian Kuang. Jufang Kue shuddered, but a sliver of hope appeared amid his terror grew. Helian Kuang's corpse had only just been dragged away. Nothing could be worse than death. For the chance to live the little demon empress offered, he dared not conceal a single thing. In that moment he racked his brain and spilled everything he knew about Duke Huai Palace and every disgraceful act his family had committed over the years, whether openly or in secret, to atone for his crimes. He even divulged in excruciating detail the shameful deeds of the other guardian families and duke palaces, especially what the Helian family had done in recent years, including the recent pact among them to cover for one another's crimes. When he finished, his entire body nearly collapsed from exhaustion. Though each confession was more shocking than the last, the little demon empress's breathing and gaze showed no ripple of emotion. She stared down at Jufang Kue and said in a deep voice, "A guardian family that has carried honor for 10,000 years has now decayed to this extent. Jufang Kue, even if you died 10,000 times, you could scarcely redeem your guilt." Jufang Kue slumped to the floor and dared not speak again. "This empress will give you two choices." The little demon empress rose slowly and walked toward him. With every step she took, Jufang Kue shrank further. First choice. You, Jufang Kue, die. Your corpse will be hung at the city gate for 7 days as a public warning. Your name will be etched into the annals of the illusory demon realm, becoming an eternal stain on the Jufang family, a byword for infamy throughout history. Your wives, concubines, children, and grandchildren will all be immediately executed. Jufang Kue jerked his head up and begged in a trembling voice, "Little demon empress, mercy, please." Second choice. The little demon empress had already reached him. She looked down with cold eyes, raised her hand above his head, and a sphere of scarlet golden flame burned in the center of her palm. "Obediently accept this empress's slave imprint. Then you may continue to serve as patriarch of the Jufang family. Your wives, concubines, children, grandchildren, and the entire Jufang clan will remain safe and sound." Jufang Kue's entire body shook violently. His eyes widened in rigid horror, pupils trembling with fear and despair. A slave imprint was the cruelest soul brand in existence. Once implanted in a person's heart and soul, they would be forced to obey the implanter's every command without question or resistance. Even if ordered to die, they would die without hesitation. There would not be the slightest trace of defiance or rebellious thought. They would become the implanter's eternal slave and puppet. Once implanted, a slave imprint was nearly impossible to remove. Even if the implanter died, the branded person would still remember their duty and serve loyally for the rest of their life. The slave imprint was so cruel, controlling both life and will, that to many it was more terrifying than death. By the laws of the illusory demon realm, slave imprints were strictly forbidden. Even the greatest family could not brand the lowliest servant. At the same time, implanting one consumed an enormous amount of mental strength and had an extremely low success rate. With the little demon empress's current strength, if Jifang Kuei struggled even slightly, success would be impossible. Even against an overlord, success was nearly unattainable. Normally, for a slave imprint to succeed, the recipient had to be completely willing and offer no resistance. Yet the choices before Jifang Kuei were: accept the slave imprint or die, and bring ruin and infamy upon himself and see his entire family slaughtered. There are only these two choices, there is absolutely no third option. The little demon empress said coldly. This is the consequence of your own transgressions. You cannot blame this empress, nor anyone else. This empress gives you the span of 5 breaths to decide, die or live. After 5 breaths, if you have not decided, this empress will send you straight to your grave. Jifang Kuei sat stunned, his eyes empty and lifeless. After 3 breaths, he lowered his head heavily and said in a trembling voice, May the little demon empress bestow the slave imprint upon me. If it were simply slave imprint versus an honorable death, he might have chosen death. But following his death would come consequences 10 times crueler than mere death. The slave imprint was his only path. At least he could live, at least his name would not be reviled for 10,000 years at least. When facing anyone other than the little demon empress, his soul would still belong to himself. Very good. The little demon empress lowered her hand. Channeling her soul energy infused with the golden crow's aura, she pressed it directly into Jifang Kuei's heart and soul. His entire body shook, but he dared not resist or defend himself. In the span of a few short breaths, the little demon empress's slave imprint was firmly planted in his heart and soul. The golden crow flame extinguished as she closed her palm. Color returned to Jifang Kuei's previously ashen eyes. Facing the little demon empress, his body bowed even lower, his gaze filled with reverence, fear, adoration, and fawning. Exactly like a loyal dog wagging its tail before its master. Get out! The little demon empress turned away and spoke in an icy voice. Jifang Kuei's pathetic, groveling appearance stirred no pity in her. The hatred she bore for her clan and family ran as deep as the sea. Were she not the little demon empress, were she not forced to consider the peace and future of the illusory demon realm, she would have slaughtered every last one of them in the cruelest manner possible. Why would she ever let them live? Yes, I'll leave at once. As though hearing an irrevocable divine command, Jifang Kuei's body shook. He threw himself to the floor, rolled, and literally rolled his way out. Jifang Kuei too walked out alive. This undoubtedly gave even greater hope to those waiting behind him. The subsequent process was far simpler. Essentially the same as with Jifang Kuei, they were forced to choose between death and the slave imprint. But that death would drag their entire family and clan into ruin and eternal disgrace. Thus the slave imprint became their only choice. Yet not everyone was offered even those 2 choices. Helian Kuang died. Jifang Kuei, Bai Yi Nangongji, Lin Guiyan, Qiang Bailey, and Xiao Shifeng were all branded with slave imprints. Among the many dukes, 1/3 who had switched sides only for self-preservation were pardoned as Duke Xian had been. The patriarchs and dukes who received slave imprints would never betray her for the rest of their lives. Their families and palaces were now completely under the little demon empress's control. Those pardoned would also remain utterly loyal out of gratitude and shame. By sunset, the little demon empress had finished meting out punishment to all the guardian families and duke palaces. After the last duke hurriedly departed, the demon imperial hall fell empty, filled only with oppressive silence and solitude. Implanting slave imprints consumed profound energy and even more mental strength. Even the little demon empress was exhausted after branding over 50 in a single afternoon. Yet with her extraordinarily stubborn personality, she naturally refused to show the slightest trace of fatigue. Her back was delicate and petite, like a young girl who had not yet fully grown. Yet she alone shouldered the heaviest burden in the entire illusory demon realm. Night had already fallen over the illusory demon realm when the little demon empress silently returned to her husband's residence. She appeared without a sound inside the small hut where he lived. Renzu sat cross-legged on the bed, his body straight and motionless as a mountain. His eyes remained closed, a dense aura swirling around him like multicolored flames. The power radiating from him was serene yet profound, vast and unfathomable, like a seemingly calm ocean. The instant her presence brushed the room, his eyes opened. The black of his irises glinted softly in the lamplight, deep and hypnotic as twin black holes. "Sai? Finished punishing the traitors?" he asked casually, as though discussing something trivial, though the matter was anything but. Since that morning when they had spoken of marriage, the two had spent several quiet days together, enjoying a rare serenity until today, when she had decided to personally resolve the matter of the traitors. She nodded once. "Yes. Everything is settled." Renzu gazed at her for a long moment. Noticing her exhaustion, it seemed she had indeed branded most of the guilty with slave imprints, just as he remembered from the original story. She walked toward the bed, but before she could speak again, he rose and approached slowly. "You pushed yourself too hard again." Renzu was silent for a moment, then let out a soft sigh. Without another word, his arms slowly encircled her slender waist from behind. A warm chest pressed gently against her back. In that instant, the little demon empress could not resist. She froze for the briefest moment. All she felt was a spreading warmth that slowly relaxed both her body and soul. She had never been good at accepting others' touch. After bearing immense pressure every single day for so many years, she had grown accustomed to living in constant vigilance, ready to react to any crisis that might arise at any moment. Her instinct for self-defense had long become second nature, etched deep into her subconscious. Yet she suddenly realized that when she was with her husband, she never reacted violently to sudden contact. Not even during that week they had spent together on Zhou Mountain, when she was still getting to know him. The cold, killing intent that once pierced hearts no longer rose within her. Instead, a warm, almost frantic feeling only a young girl could have replaced it. Slowly, her body softened until it lost all strength, and she leaned her full weight against his masculine frame, nestling her back against him. A barely audible sound escaped her lips. "Amen. You don't have to carry everything alone," he murmured beside her ear. For several seconds she remained motionless. Then, with a small movement, she rested her head against his chest and allowed herself to close her eyes. "In 3 days," she said softly, almost to herself, "I will announce our marriage." Renzu nodded calmly. "Though I don't know much about ruling, as I've told you before, I'll learn quickly. I'll shoulder all your burdens with you. You only need to play the role of my wife." Amen. The little demon empress kept her eyes closed, her face still nestled against Renzu's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her cheek. The warmth radiating from him was like a gentle golden crow flame, without any of its destructive ferocity. Renzu said nothing more. His arms held her firmly yet without pressure, as though he knew exactly how much she needed so as not to feel trapped. Slowly he loosened his embrace, allowing her just enough space to lift her face. Her once eternally cold eyes now shimmered with a vulnerability she herself barely recognized. "Sai," he murmured, the name a caress. His fingers gently traced the line of her jaw, tilting it upward with tender care. She did not resist. Instead she leaned forward, lips slightly parted, breath trembling. The kiss began slowly, almost hesitantly. His lips brushed hers with a tenderness that belied his powerful frame. She tasted the faint, indescribable flavor of him. But soon gentleness turned to hunger. His tongue grazed hers, inviting her response, and she answered with an intensity that surprised them both. Their tongues entwined in a feverish dance, exploring, claiming. A low moan escaped her, muffled against his mouth, as her hands rose to clutch the nape of his neck, pulling him closer. The world around them vanished. Renzu guided her backward with gentle determination until the backs of her legs met the edge of the bed. She sank into the soft sheets, her petite, delicate body melting into them as he leaned over her, never breaking the kiss. His hands slid along her sides, tracing the hidden curves beneath her imperial robe, sending shivers through her that arched her back. "Husband," she whispered between kisses, voice husky with mingled desire and exhaustion. Her fingers dug into his back, feeling the taut muscle beneath his simple robes. He paused for a heartbeat, dark eyes searching hers for any trace of hesitation. There was none. With a faint smile he claimed her lips again, deeper this time, while one hand moved to undo the sash of her robe. The dark fabric slipped away, revealing flawless pale skin. /N. Consider supporting me on Patreon and reading up to 20 advanced chapters of each story. For just $5.99, you get access to all my content, including over 30 chapters of Patreon exclusive stories, plus early access to future updates. My Patreon, patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 46. Chapter 46. Healing Some People. The light of dawn filtered through the cracks of the cabin, painting golden hues over the rustic wood. The air was steeped in the subtle scent of sweat and intimacy, mingled with the fresh morning breeze of the illusory demon realm. Renzu was the first to stir, slowly opening his eyes to the low ceiling. He felt the light, warm weight of the little demon empress's body nestled against his, her head resting on his chest, her jet-black hair spilling like an ebony cascade across his skin. The sheet covered them only partially, revealing the graceful curve of her back, the elegant line of her waist, and the leg entwined with his. Her breasts pressed softly against his torso, and her arm lay possessively across his waist, as if even in sleep she refused to let him go. He smiled faintly, a rare moment of peace on his usually indifferent, calm face. Careful not to wake her, he traced his fingers along her spine, feeling the softness of her skin and the slight shiver his touch provoked, even while she slept. The little demon empress murmured something incoherent, snuggling even closer. Her face, serene and peaceful, stood in stark contrast to the image of the ruthless empress the world knew. Her slightly parted lips released a soft breath, and Renzu tilted his head to place a gentle kiss on her forehead, inhaling the unique fragrance that belonged only to her. With utmost care, he slid the arm that held her away, replacing it with a soft pillow so her head would not lose its support. The little demon empress mumbled something unintelligible but did not open her eyes. She simply burrowed into the pillow, her black hair falling over her tranquil face. Renzu smiled again and pressed one last light kiss to her temple before rising. His feet touched the cold wooden floor. Moments later, a set of clothes materialized magically in his hands. A snow-white hanfu. The fabric was simple, without embroidery or ornamentation, just as he preferred. He dressed calmly, tying the wide belt around his waist and leaving the high collar slightly open, enough to reveal his snow-white collarbone. The white contrasted sharply with his loose black hair that fell to the end of his back. Before leaving, he turned back to the bed. He adjusted the sheet over her body, covering her up to the shoulders, and gently brushed aside a lock of hair that had fallen across her eyes. "Sleep a little longer, Tsai," he whispered, as softly as the buzz of a mosquito. "I'll be back soon." The cabin door creaked faintly as it opened, the only sound that broke the silence. Renzu stepped out and closed it with the same care. He immediately headed toward the pavilion where his parents lived, determined to discuss how the little demon empress had dealt with the traitors. Yun Qinghong had shown great interest in the matter after learning that she had summoned them yesterday. He had even used a sound transmission talisman to ask whether Renzu knew anything, as her future husband. In any case, Renzu had also finished refining all the herbs from the garden into pills over the past 3 days and planned to ask his father to sell them. When he arrived at the pavilion, he saw his father, Yun Qinghong, seated at the stone table beneath the eaves, a steaming porcelain cup held between his fingers. Beside him, Mu Yuro was pouring tea with graceful movements, her gaze calm yet carrying the tenderness she always reserved for her son and husband. The sound of footsteps made Yun Qinghong look up. Upon seeing Renzu, a faint smile appeared on his face, that discreet, restrained smile that nevertheless conveyed silent pride. "Zuer, you're up early," he said in a calm yet firm voice, gesturing for him to approach. "Come. The tea is still hot." Renzu greeted them politely. "Father, mother?" Mu Yuro smiled, pleased with the formality, and poured a third cup with an elegant motion. "Sit down, dear. It's colder today, and this spiritual petal tea will warm you." Renzu took the seat opposite them. Steam from the tea rose slowly, forming small spirals before dissipating in the breeze. He lifted the cup and took a sip. The flavor was delicate, with a faint floral note that evoked memories of ancient, peaceful mornings in the Yun family residence from his predecessor's recollections. For a moment, the three of them sat in silence. The gentle sound of the wind through the trees was enough to fill the space. Yun Qinghong was the first to break the silence. "Zuer, I heard that the little demon empress personally dealt with the traitors yesterday. You said you would tell me the details in person. What happened?" Mu Yuro also looked at him with interest, her gentle eyes attentive. Renzu hid nothing from Yun Qinghong. In a neutral tone, he recounted how the little demon empress had handled the 7 guardian families and the rest of the duke palaces. Yun Qinghong gasped in shock, and Mu Yuro's eyes widened as she brought a hand to her chest in astonishment. The little demon empress was truly terrifying, branding most of the traitors with slave marks or inflicting such cruel punishments. Given the current situation, the final outcome and foreseeable future had been arranged in the most perfect way possible. After hearing all the details from Renzu, Yun Qinghong changed the subject. "Zuer, do you remember when I carelessly revealed your medical skills to everyone at our banquet that day? You need to be mentally prepared for what comes next. Some people already wish to meet you. Renzu knew Yun Qinghong had not been careless at all. It had been deliberate. He remained silent for a moment before saying, "Father, you want me to build reputation and connections, right?" Yun Qinghong nodded slightly. "Although you have already built an enormous reputation as the little demon empress's husband and a divine profound realm cultivator, it is mostly superficial admiration and reverence. If you wish to make the illusory demon realm your home, your medical skills are an effective means. 10 gates of awe are not worth a fraction of gratitude, much less the gratitude for saving a life." Mu Yuro added softly. "And the gratitude for a saved life opens doors that even the crudest power cannot. You already possess strength, Zuer. Now you need connections, especially as the future ruler of the illusory demon realm." "Understood. Very well. I'll do it then." Renzu nodded, took out a white jade box, and placed it in Yun Qinghong's hand. "Father, inside this box are 100 sovereign pills. Give them to the best young disciples of our family." 100 sovereign pills. The 4 words made Yun Qinghong's mind freeze. Even with the sharp hearing of a sovereign profound realm cultivator, he doubted his own ears. Only after Renzu finished speaking did he ask, stunned, "You said, what is inside this box?" "Sovereign pills. 100, exactly." Mu Yuro leaned forward slightly, her eyes wide with amazement, her delicate hand covering her lips. Yun Qinghong opened the jade box and was instantly assaulted by a pure, dense medicinal fragrance of the highest quality. From his knowledge and experience, he immediately recognized the scent of the sovereign pill. He carefully picked one up. It was almost identical in appearance and aura to those he knew, yet rounder, with a purer and denser aura than any he had ever touched. He injected a strand of profound energy, and his expression changed for a long time. It was undoubtedly a nearly perfect quality sovereign pill. He took out a second, a third, a fifth. Each one increased his astonishment. After the 10th, he sealed the box and stared at Renzu in prolonged silence. Mu Yuro, still speechless, simply reached out and lightly touched her son's arm, as if to confirm he was real. "You refined all of them, Zuer?" Renzu nodded and continued in an unchanged tone. "As you and mother know, my pill refining ability surpasses my medical arts. Any pill, once I know its composition, quality, and have the ingredients, I can refine perfectly in a short time, without failure. Use these 100 without reservation. With the 10,000-year foundation of the Yun family's medicinal pavilion, we have ingredients for thousands. The ones I made were from my own ingredients." Yun Qinghong felt as though he were in an unreal dream. Duke Baoqing Palace spent 50 years to produce a single sovereign pill. In Renzu's hands, it had become mass production, and by his tone, as trivial as a casual gesture. If he were not holding the 100 pills, he would not believe it, no matter how sincere it sounded. "Zuer, once again you leave me speechless. Calling you a little monster is no exaggeration." Mu Yuro also smiled. "You truly are incredible, Zuer. Now I understand why your master from the divine profound realm accepted you as a disciple. Your talent in medicine and pill refinement is unmatched." Hearing his mother's words, he recalled the story he had fabricated when he cured them. Renzu replied without humor, "If I am a little monster, what would father be? And mother, I am only slightly talented. I cannot yet call myself unparalleled in this world." His words made his parents exchange glances. "Ha ha ha ha." Yun Qinghong laughed heartily. The shock remained, but his expression returned to normal. The more monstrous Renzu proved to be, the more pride, joy, and assurance he felt for the future. 100 sovereign pills meant transformation. A mediocre force could rise within decades. The weakened Yun family could return to the pinnacle within a century, even without favors from the little demon empress. After laughing, Yun Qinghong said with a grateful voice, "Zuer, without you, neither the Yun family nor the illusory demon realm would be as they are now." Renzu replied softly, "I am of the Yun family. It is what I should do. Even though I am adopted, I will never be ungrateful enough to ignore all the love you have given me." Mu Yuro tilted her head, deeply moved. "Even if we do not share the same blood, we are your parents. We always will be." "Good." Yun Qinghong nodded firmly. "You are Yun Qinghong's son. My son." For Yun Qinghong and Mu Yuro, the days following the revelation of Renzu's true origins had been marked by a mixture of relief and introspection. For a long time, both had carried the burden of a secret that weighed heavily on their souls, the fact that the young man they called son did not share their blood. Yet he had been raised under the same roof, loved with the same intensity, and cared for with the same devotion as any biological child. The truth had emerged unexpectedly. Since he had learned of it from the little demon empress and confronted them seeking answers, Even so, the confession had not been easy. Yoon Ching-hong clearly remembered Renzu's silent expression, the calm and indifferent gaze with which he listened to every word. Mu Yuro, beside him, could barely hold back tears as she recounted the baby swap with his brother on the profound sky continent. Throughout the entire account, Renzu said nothing. He merely watched them with the indifference that had become characteristic of him over the past year, a calmness that sometimes seemed to belong to someone far beyond human comprehension. When they finished, the silence that followed felt eternal. For a moment, Yoon Ching-hong feared he would see the kind of cold distance appear that no words could bridge. But Renzu simply looked at them both and, in a tranquil, almost serene voice, said that nothing had changed, that they would always be his parents. In that moment, the entire weight the couple had carried for years dissolved like mist before the sun. Mu Yuro wept, but this time from relief. Yoon Ching-hong, who rarely let emotions overtake him, felt his chest tighten, not with pain, but with gratitude. He realized that this son, who had never been his by blood, was more truly his than many born of the same womb. Since then, something had quietly changed between them. The existing bond grew stronger, more authentic. Yoon Ching-hong began to see Renzu not merely as the heir to the Yoon name, but as the true legacy of his life. Mu Yuro, for her part, became even more protective. She began watching him with a tenderness almost reverent, as if every gesture of his were living proof that love is stronger than any blood tie. Looking at their son who revealed ever greater talent, all the two of them felt was pride. As the tea steam dissipated in the cold breeze, Renzu took the opportunity to arrange with his father the matters that would follow, especially regarding those who, after hearing of his medical abilities at the banquet, had expressed a desire to meet him personally. Yoon Ching-hong took out a jade scroll and placed it on the table. On it were recorded the names and crests of the families and sects that had sent emissaries. Renzu calmly examined each name before selecting those with the most serious conditions and that he judged would offer the best compensation based on his knowledge. He had no intention of wasting time on flattery disguised as medical requests. Yoon Ching-hong understood the intent behind the selection. After choosing them all, Renzu handed the scroll back to his father. Yoon Ching-hong nodded, satisfied with the decision. He would personally send the invitations and arrange the meetings in the main pavilion, the area where the Yoon family traditionally received prestigious guests. As usual, Renzu showed no haste. He simply asked that the meetings begin tomorrow, so he could prepare the medicinal environment and select the appropriate herbs. While his father made mental notes of whom to send as messengers, Mu Yuro stood, gathered the empty cups, and simply smiled as she watched the two of them. Before taking his leave, Renzu mentioned one more thing, about his upcoming marriage to the little demon empress. She planned to make the official announcement in 3 days. After settling the details with his parents, he returned to his courtyard to sleep beside his wife, who was still sleeping. /N. Consider supporting me on Patreon and reading up to 20 advanced chapters of each story. For just $5.99, you get access to all my content, including over 30 chapters of Patreon-exclusive stories, plus early access to future updates. My Patreon, patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 47. Chapter 47. Healing Some People, 2. Before we begin today's chapter, I would like to share some important announcements with you. As a year-end gift, I released several free chapters from my exclusive Patreon stories for all members. In addition, I have just posted 2 new stories over there, one for Teen Wolf and one for The Walking Dead, and the first chapters are now available for free for anyone who wants to check out the content at no additional cost. You can read them for free by becoming a member. Now comes even better news. Throughout this entire month, anyone who wants to subscribe to any Patreon tier will receive a 30% discount. This applies to all plans, from the most basic to the most complete. It's the perfect time to join, support the project, and secure early access to a huge amount of exclusive content while paying much less for it. If you've ever thought about supporting and were just waiting for the right moment, that moment has arrived. Discount code 10897. You can also choose to support me for just $5.99, which already grants access to several benefits, including early chapters. Currently, we already have many advanced chapters available. For example, my story My Unique Skill is Fate Gacha, DXD, that you follow here has officially entered the Tensura arc on Patreon, which is receiving weekly chapters averaging 10,000 words each. It is an arc that I am developing with great care, planning, and dedication. I know that at the beginning of the first part of the story I ended up making some mistakes, especially in pacing and structure, but I want you to know that I am truly committed to delivering something worthy of what you deserve. The Tensura arc, in particular, is being treated as a true turning point, both in quality and in narrative impact. Patreon link, patreon.com/fanficnovels. Finally, I can only thank you for your constant support. Every read, every comment, and every bit of support on Patreon make all the difference for this project to keep growing. Now, enjoy the reading, and thank you very much, from the bottom of my heart. With the collapse of Duke Huai Palace, the reign of terror in Demon Imperial City finally came to an end. The city walls were covered with letters written in blood, and each signature on those blood letters was a name that had once been renowned and highly respected in the illusory demon realm. The guardian families and duke palaces that had been punished by the little demon empress all became honest and conservative. Especially the patriarchs and dukes upon whom the little demon empress had implanted slave marks. Pledging loyalty to the little demon empress and the demon emperor clan became everything to them for the rest of their lives. Demon Imperial City, after days of turmoil, finally returned to normal. At dawn the following day, after his conversation with his father about using his medical skills to gain reputation and favors as a future new ruler, Renzu resumed his activities, now officially as a physician. He personally attended to the names he had selected. The result was overwhelming. In just a few hours, his skill surpassed all expectations. He healed injuries that the best physicians in the illusory demon realm had declared impossible, restored the vital energy of cultivators on the brink of death, and even rebuilt long-destroyed profound cultivation foundations. He treated meridian deviations that had turned promising geniuses into cripples, allowing them to channel energy once more as if they had never been injured. The news spread like wildfire in dry grass. The title of Medicine Immortal, which had initially emerged from rumors after he healed his father and mother's severe injuries, took on continental proportions. In less than a day, his name echoed through every sect, clan, and noble family in the illusory demon realm. He was hailed as the #1 physician of the illusory demon realm, a living legend, practically a near-divine figure. Influential families sent chests filled with treasures, rare herbs, spiritual jade, and ancient artifacts, all in exchange for a single consultation. Messengers from major sects knelt before the Yun family residence, begging for an audience, for just one touch of his hands. Rumors circulated that he possessed the ability to open even the profound entrances with a single finger, capable of transforming even the most mediocre cultivator into a genius. After all, the more profound entrances opened, the faster a person's cultivation speed became. These rumors began circulating after he did exactly that for #7 under heaven, who sought him out once all the commotion had settled. The two had been longtime friends, and in the past, she had even harbored feelings for his predecessor, something that never came to fruition since he had been reborn into this world. Still, out of consideration for their shared friendship and gratitude for the support she had given him when no one else did, he decided to reward her by opening several of her profound entrances. The problem arose when her father discovered what had happened, which ended up causing a huge uproar, especially within the Yun clan itself, where the matter spread like fire. His father even asked him to open the profound entrances of the entire younger generation of the clan. He naturally agreed but charged a fair price. After all, sooner or later he would need resources for his own goals. After collecting more than half the herbs from the medicinal pavilion as payment, he continued to assist the Yun clan, further elevating his reputation and prestige within the family. Over time, practically no one opposed the idea of him becoming the new patriarch. Even though he was an outsider and did not carry the Yun bloodline, after an exhausting day, when night finally fell, Renzu devoted himself entirely to the little demon empress. That time, for both of them, felt like it had been snatched from the hands of fate, when they lived simply in their cabin, exactly as they had done before when they first met. Later, they fell asleep embraced, their bodies entwined and their breathing still marked by the heat of yet another night of passion. The next day, the sun was already illuminating the horizon when Renzu left his humble residence and headed to the medicinal pavilion. He intended to collect some herbs to refine pills that would be useful later, since he planned to continue practicing as a doctor. However, while walking, an unexpected sensation made him stop. An extremely high-level spiritual aura, dense and pulsating, emanated from somewhere ahead. As soon as he came into contact with that aura, a surprising phenomenon occurred. The slight fatigue he felt vanished instantly. His 5 senses sharpened extraordinarily, and even the dormant energy in his deep veins awakened, vibrating with renewed intensity. He recognized it almost immediately. Purple-veined divine crystals. Right? Renzu frowned. He had visited the medicinal pavilion countless times but had never detected traces of purple-veined divine crystals there. In the last 100 years, the Yun family had been frugal with expenses on high-quality profound crystals. And yet, here it was, right before his eyes. An thick, imposing aura that could not be ignored. Could it be what he and his father had planned months ago? Renzu followed the aura and arrived at the great assembly hall of his family. Yun Qinghong and all the elders were there, and more than 10 boxes of profound black jade were neatly placed in the center of the hall. Even with the highest quality profound black jade, it was unable to fully contain this incredibly thick aura of power. Zuer, you've come at just the right time, Yun Qinghong said with a smile. These are the purple-veined divine crystals from the 7 families. 2.5 kilograms from each family. There are exactly 17.5 kilograms here, no more, no less. In addition, there are 12.5 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals seized from Duke Huai Palace's secret chamber. The little demon empress granted all of them to our Yun family. In total, there are 30 kilograms. 30 kilograms. That's a huge amount of purple-veined divine crystals. Even if our Yun family only gained and never spent, it would take hundreds of years to accumulate, or even close to 1,000 years, exclaimed one of the Yun family elders. This is like a dream. The hands of one elder standing slightly closer continued to tremble. In the great hall, everyone's faces were flushed, and they could not calm their emotions for a long time. They belonged to the top families in the illusory demon realm and were the greatest existences in the illusory demon realm, yet even so, they had never seen so many purple-veined divine crystals in their lives. 30 kilograms. This was not a large number in terms of weight, but when it referred to purple-veined divine crystals, it was extremely exaggerated, an astronomical figure that could stun a profound path expert. In the entire illusory demon realm, for more than 99% of profound practitioners, purple-veined divine crystals were divine items that existed only in legends, and even seeing them in one's lifetime would be an extravagant hope. It was also the first time Renzu had personally seen the legendary purple-veined divine crystals. Until then, he had only known them from descriptions of their spiritual aura, which matched perfectly with the information from the miracle of life that he had fully mastered. Some treatments required precisely such crystals, but nothing had prepared him for the real experience. What surprised him most was that profound black jade possessed an extremely powerful isolation ability when transporting purple-veined heavenly crystals. Their aura remained completely hidden. However, upon holding the purple-veined divine crystals, Renzu could feel an incredibly thick spiritual energy radiating from them. There was no need to mention the magnitude and density of the power they contained. Especially at that moment, so close to the crystals, the energy was so intense that it seemed to envelop him completely, as if he were immersed in a true sea of spiritual force. He had no doubt. This powerful aura had already spread and enveloped the entire Yun family. And this was while the purple-veined divine crystals were still sealed in the profound black jade. The purple-veined divine crystals. Why weren't they stored in the medicinal pavilion immediately? Leaving them here with spiritual energy leaking is a kind of waste, Renzu said casually. Ho ho ho. Yun Duanxue let out a low, weak laugh. Young patriarch, our Yun family was only able to receive these purple-veined divine crystals suddenly because of you. The patriarch told us about the plan you two made, the bet with the families that provided the crystals months ago, right after the news that the patriarch had been cured. As you can imagine, all those families lost badly. They tried to cause trouble but ended up hitting an iron wall when confronting the fully cured patriarch, ha ha ha, and they came out losing. But with everything that happened afterward, we had forgotten about it. Renzu did not seem surprised by Yun Duanxue's words. As he had suspected, they were the ones used in the bet he had asked his father to make during the revelation of his and his mother's cure. Obviously, everything had been meticulously planned as a trap, to catch the allies within the Yun family from the other families and force them to suffer losses through the bet. At the time, he had prepared every detail, even leaking information that his father intended to retire from the patriarch position, just to attract their attention and greed. But soon after came the news that the little demon empress had been killed, which caused part of his plans to superficially collapse, since he still planned the other part, winning over the little demon empress. However, due to that news and all the commotion of the past months, his father had nearly forgotten completely about the bet he had made with the other patriarchs. With the little demon empress regaining power, she naturally ensured that the patriarchs honored the bet in favor of the Yun family. She probably wanted to surprise him, since in the past few days while handling everything, she had forgotten to mention it. As for the other 15 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals, he could consider them part of the dowry? Mistaking Renzu's silence for surprise, Yun Duanxue continued speaking. It was all thanks to the young patriarch's planning. Forget the divine crystals, we wouldn't even know if our family would still exist in Demon Imperial City. Thus, including the patriarch, all of us believe that only the young patriarch has the qualification to handle these purple-veined divine crystals. If the young patriarch says nothing, none of us has the right to move them ourselves. That's right. The other elders all nodded in agreement, their expressions showing deep contemplation. It was no coincidence that Renzu had proposed using purple-veined divine crystals as the wager for his father. He needed a large quantity of these crystals and knew he could obtain them from some families if he planned carefully, based on his knowledge of the original history. Fortunately, he had succeeded. As for the reason he desired these crystals, it was because of Jasmine. He obviously already had plans for her. With that in mind, he stepped forward and said, "Then I won't be polite. For a reason that is extremely important to me, I really do need a large quantity of purple-veined divine crystals. So, of these 30 kilograms, I would like to take 20, and the remaining 10 kilograms will stay with the family. I'm not sure if everyone will agree to this." Ha 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 ha. Yun Waidian laughed loudly. "Young patriarch, what are you saying? Even if you took all 30 kilograms, it would be right and proper. From top to bottom in our entire clan, none of us would disagree. Besides being the strongest expert in the Yun clan, the young patriarch is the future ruler of the illusory demon realm, and also opened all the profound entrances of our Yun clan's younger generation. Such great kindness must be repaid. Moreover, the young patriarch is only taking 20 kilograms and leaving nearly half for the family. This is already a generous gift to our entire clan. How could we have any reason to disagree? What the great elder said is exactly what we were thinking in our minds." The other elders all laughed. To them, what Yun Waidian had said was absolutely correct. Even if Renzu took everything, it would be natural and right. And by leaving 10 kilograms, it was already a generosity that left everyone impressed. "Then I will accept it respectfully." Renzu stepped forward directly and took exactly 20 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals, storing them in his spatial ring. "In addition, I have a suggestion for these 10 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals." He faced everyone and said, "Take 5 kilograms and deliver them to the Mu family." "Ah, this." Renzu's suggestion startled all the elders. They all showed discomfort on their faces, and the fourth elder said in a subtle tone, "Young patriarch, we have no right to interfere with how the purple-veined divine crystals are handled, but giving a total of 5 kilograms to others for nothing is a bit. I agree with Zuer's suggestion." Contrary to the elder's shock, Yun Qinghong smiled after a brief moment of thought. "The Mu family is essentially our greatest ally and is my wife's family, but I don't agree just for that reason. After this period of ups and downs, in the eyes of the people, our Yun family status has already surpassed the other guardian families, and no one can compare to us. Especially now that we have received 30 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals. I believe the entire demon imperial city is discussing this. With these divine crystals and the fact that Zuer is the future husband of the little demon empress, anyone can predict that in not much time, our Yun family will stand above all other guardian families in prestige, strength, and position. However, being too prominent would instead create invisible flaws and gaps between the families with whom we once shared the same air." All the elders seemed to suddenly understand. Do the patriarch and young patriarch mean? That's right. Purple-veined divine crystals are the greatest divine items in the world. Anyone who receives them would treat them as their own life. If we share with the Mu family, our oldest ally, it will be enough to show them that even though our Yun family has returned to our glorious state, we will not be proud and arrogant, and we will still value our relationship with our allies. Renzu nodded slightly. Father and son looked at each other and smiled. Yun Qinghong's words enlightened all the elders. Yun Waidian was convinced and said, "The patriarch and young patriarch are more thoughtful. This is indeed necessary. Let's go personally, right now." Since this concerned purple-veined divine crystals, of course they could not feel at ease if someone else delivered them. The 4 elders immediately began to move. 3 of them took the 5 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals to the Yun family's medicinal pavilion, and the entire Yun family rejoiced in jubilation for a long time. As for the 100 overlord pellets that Renzu had given him 2 days ago, Yun Qinghong had not yet disclosed them because they were an explosive, even more terrifying than 5 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals. Even he had not overcome the shock and reverence brought by the revelation of those 100 overlord pellets. Meanwhile, another of the elders took the remaining 5 kilograms to the Mu family. Ha 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 ha. Since my son-in-law and my grandson are filial, of course I cannot refuse. Mu Fian was beaming with joy, laughing loudly and waving his hand. Old 3. Accept the gift and deliver 5 kilograms of purple-veined divine crystals to my courtyard. This is the greatest gift this old man has ever received. Wait until this old man warms it with my hands and then store it in the medicinal pavilion. It was not in vain that this old man married his daughter to the Yun family. I gained a good grandson from it, ha 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 ha. Mu Fian accepted it cleanly and efficiently. The second elder of the Yun family, Yun Duanxue, who had gone to deliver the gift, was stunned in place. What a shameless old man. 48. Chapter 48. Healing some people. 3. While Yun Duanxue was still leaving the Mu family residence, somewhat dazed by Mu Fian's shameless behavior, the sun had already risen in the sky, gilding the roofs of the Yun clan and making the thin threads of spiritual energy that permeated the air shimmer. The breeze carried the faint scent of herbs from the medicinal pavilion, and the bustling of the servants indicated that the morning would be long and busy. Renzu still had a few matters to attend to before beginning his duties as a physician. Thus, after separating and storing away the 20 kilograms of divine purple-veined crystals, he bid farewell to his father, leaving him to deal alone with the visitors who had come seeking his medical expertise. Meanwhile, Yun Qinghong headed toward the main hall of the family. It seemed that Su Xiangnan and Su Zhizhan had come to pay a visit. The patriarch of the Su family had even brought the young patriarch along, so Yun Qinghong naturally went to receive them. Yet, shortly after they finished exchanging greetings, Su Xiangnan said in a rather cautious tone, "May I inquire whether your esteemed son is present today? Zuer? Why is Brother Su looking for Zuer? It is like this. 100 years ago, due to a moment of recklessness and impatience, my father forcibly attempted to open his heavenly gate, earthly gate, and palace gate. He failed and gravely injured himself instead. Not only was he forced into perpetual seclusion, but if he does not carefully control the circulation of his profound energy, and it comes into contact with those 3 profound entrances, it is extremely likely that his profound energy will go berserk. The pain he suffers in such cases is actually secondary. What we truly fear is that his internal organs will be injured again and again. Over the past 100 years, our Su family has tried countless methods to cure his condition, and we have invited more than 100 renowned and skilled physicians to help. Yet the heavenly gate, earthly gate, and palace gate are located at the very core of one's profound veins. Unless they possess absolute confidence, or if their focus wavers even for a fraction of a second, it would damage the profound veins, so all those so-called genius doctors did not dare attempt it. Brother Yun must have heard what happened to my father. A full 100 years have passed and we are truly at a complete loss." Su Xiangnan's father, Su Hongba, was the former patriarch of the Su family. 100 years ago, he had been ranked among the 10 supreme individuals of the illusory demon realm. Thus, the incident of his profound entrances being damaged was something Yun Qinghong naturally knew about. Not only that, it was known to practically everyone in Demon Imperial City, for it was the most famous case study of the negative consequences of forcibly trying to open one's profound entrances. Unfortunately, those 3 profound entrances were located at the very core of his profound veins. Yun Qinghong nodded thoughtfully and replied in a deliberate voice. "Seeing how anxious Brother Su is, could it be that Senior Su's condition has worsened again?" Sigh. Su Xiangnan let out a low sigh. A few days ago, Father learned of the vile schemes of Duke Huai Palace. He also discovered the truth behind the tragic deaths of the previous Demon Emperor and the Little Demon Emperor. He was filled with grief and self-reproach, hating himself for being crippled by the injuries to his profound entrances, hating that he had been completely oblivious to the fact that the Demon Emperor clan had faced such a massive crisis and that he had done nothing to help. In a fit of rage and impulsiveness, the profound energy he had suppressed for decades forcibly broke free and went berserk. In the end, that energy came into contact with those injured profound entrances, causing his profound energy to run amok and rebound upon him, resulting in extremely severe internal injuries. His other injuries are secondary, for he can always recover from them, but the injuries to his profound entrances have caused my father immense pain and exhaustion, and now they are even more. Sigh. Senior Su's injuries are truly a great tragedy. Yun Qinghong also sighed. Then, could it be that the purpose of Brother Su's visit was to... Su Zhizhan stepped forward and bowed as he said, "Uncle Yun, we have heard that young Patriarch Yun possesses extraordinary and unparalleled medical skills. Your profound veins had withered, and all the famous miracle doctors could only wring their hands at the cold poison that devoured your body for 20 years. Yet young Patriarch Yun completely cured you. Uncle Yun personally said that he could even cure the loss of blood essence. Such medical skill may be able to resolve the problem of my grandfather's injured profound entrances. My father has suffered from the injuries to his profound entrances for an entire century. To allow my father to be freed from this suffering has been the greatest wish of our Su family over the past 100 years. With the passage of a century, it had long become an unattainable dream. If your esteemed son has a way to cure my father, I, Su Xiangnan, will be eternally grateful." The moment they mentioned Su Hongba's injury, Yun Qinghong immediately understood the purpose of their visit. After all, the fact that Renzu possessed extraordinarily exceptional medical skills had been deliberately spread by him. He replied, "Brother Su's words are far too serious. I will simply call Zuer over. However, Zuer just said that he had something to do, so he might be a little busy at the moment. It's fine. I've already finished what I needed to do, Father." Before Yun Qinghong's words had fully fallen, Renzu's voice rang out from beyond the hall, and the moment it echoed through the hall, everyone present instinctively turned toward the door. A youth appeared, walking slowly beneath the light filtering through the tall windows. Renzu was dressed entirely in white, a snow-pure hanfu, not even the slightest speck of dust on its hems. The silk belt cinched his waist with natural elegance, and the robe flowed as though the wind itself obeyed only him. His long, jet-black hair, smooth as strands of obsidian, cascaded down his back to his waist, reflecting a faint silver sheen under the morning sun. Each step was silent, yet the sound seemed to reverberate directly into the souls of those watching. His features were beautiful to a degree that defied human description. Skin pale and translucent like polished jade, thin pale lips curved in a neutral expression, and his eyes, those eyes, black as the oldest night, seemingly devoid of light yet so deep they appeared to contain the entire firmament within them. A single glance was enough to make the heart of anyone who met his gaze falter for a moment, as if standing before an unfathomable abyss. He calmly walked closer to them and directly addressed the Su father and son. Patriarch Su, Brother Su, I do indeed possess some medical skill. If I can heal the old injury of the former senior Su, then I feel duty-bound to assist in any way I can. Please allow me to accompany you to the Su family right now and pay a visit. Renzu's entrance was perfectly timed and decisive. Not only did he show no sign of refusal, he accepted the request immediately. His expression remained exceptionally calm and confident. If he did not possess formidable medical skill and absolute confidence in his abilities, he would not behave in such a manner. The Su father and son, who had come with the hope that he would agree, immediately felt their spirits soar. Su Xiangnan bowed slightly and said with deep gratitude, Young Patriarch Yun, no matter what happens, this Su thanks you profoundly. Patriarch Su is being far too courteous. Please, just call me Renzu. After that, Renzu followed Su Xiangnan and Su Zhizhan to the Su family. The Su family was one of the oldest and most prosperous clans in the illusory demon realm, firmly holding third place among the 12 guardian families. Its foundation was profound, and it was only natural that the Su family territory exuded an imposing pressure, filled with a pure, cutting aura, as if every breath of wind there had passed through 1,000 sharpened blades before touching the skin. Even before reaching the main gate, Renzu felt a sword wind envelop him. The air vibrated with a low, constant hum, like the whistle of blades dancing in the breeze. A unique melody created by the profound art the clan had perfected over centuries. Each gust carried fragments of sword intent, enough to make the heart of an ordinary profound practitioner tremble. The outer walls of the compound were made of polished gray-green jade, reflecting a cold light under the sun, and the pillars engraved with patterns of swirling winds and crossed swords seemed to emit a breath from the heavens themselves. The Su family was renowned for its mastery of wind and sword, and the profound art they cultivated was one of the most feared among the 12 lineages. It was said that a true Su family cultivator could cleave a mountain with a single sword strike, and in battle the very wind became their invisible ally. From what he recalled, the name of their profound art was Divine Wine Sword. It would be interesting to secretly learn it. When Renzu crossed the clan gates, the air seemed to shift. The disciples who noticed him instantly froze in place. Conversations ceased, and a wave of curiosity and reverence spread like wildfire through dry grass. After all, at this moment, Renzu was the name on everyone's lips throughout the entire illusory demon realm. His recent reputation even surpassed that of many guardian families, a feat few would dare imagine. Faced with a man whose name had become synonymous with miracles and mystery, even the proudest geniuses of the Su family could not help but feel a trace of respect and unease in their hearts. Patriarch Su Xiangnan led Renzu through a long, silent corridor. The walls were made of green jade, engraved with ancient runes that exuded a serene yet cutting energy. The air inside was cold and pure, and each footstep echoed softly across the polished floor. Outside, the wind whistled through the bamboo, carrying the distant sound of blades slicing the air, the characteristic sound of Su family disciples training their sword arts. Passing through the corridor, they arrived before a dark wooden door sealed with a faint spiritual formation. Su Xiangnan stopped and made a respectful gesture before entering. Father, this person is the young patriarch of the Yun family, Renzu. The door opened silently, revealing a spacious yet simple room. The floor was covered with a carpet embroidered with silver threads in swirling patterns, and at the center stood a cold jade bed emitting a faint blue glow. Junior Renzu pays his respects to Senior Su, Renzu said as he stepped forward to offer his greetings. Su Hongba slowly sat up. As an incomparably powerful late-stage monarch, his face showed no trace of age. Yet his complexion was pale, and his aura was extremely weak and empty. But when he assessed Renzu, his originally dim eyes regained a great deal of color. He slowly nodded and, with much admiration, said, "What an outstanding youth. In recent times, this old man has heard your name mentioned more than any other. Unfortunately, my body has failed me, and I was unable to attend any grand ceremonies. Being unable to witness your splendor was truly a great loss." "Senior's words are far too generous," Renzu replied as he stepped forward. "This junior possesses some skill in the medical arts, so I have come at Patriarch Su's request. If it is acceptable, may this junior examine the condition of Senior Su's profound entrances. Haha, sigh. Su Hongba first let out a laugh, but it was followed by a silent sigh. It was all this old man's fault. When I was full of vigor, I overestimated myself and had to swallow this bitter fruit. Now that a full 100 years have passed, the severe injuries to my 3 great profound entrances have left them completely ruined. I'm afraid there is nothing that can be done. That you would come for the sake of this old man already fills this old heart with gratitude. If nothing can be done, please do not blame yourself. From Su Hongba's expression and words, it was clear that he had long ago lost most hope regarding the recovery of his 3 great profound entrances. Rinzhu gave a faint smile and calmly said, Senior Su need not be so pessimistic. Allow this junior to first examine the state of your profound entrances. Rinzhu moved to the head of Su Hongba's bed and stood behind him. He extended his left hand and gathered profound energy there. At that moment, Su Xiangnan's voice rang out as he asked, Nephew Yun, is it not necessary for him to remove his clothes? Oh, there's no need. He can remain as he is, Rinzhu replied without the slightest hesitation. /N. Did you enjoy the chapter? Then you should know that over on my Patreon you can read up to 15 chapters ahead for just $5. And yes, for that price you also get full access to all of my content. That's right. Cheaper than a snack, and with way more drama, action, and guaranteed emotional damage. The link is right below. See you there. My Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 49. Chapter 49. The most terrifying thing under heaven. Rinzhu extended 3 fingers and pressed them precisely onto Su Hongba's back, at the exact locations of his heavenly gate, earthly gate, and palace gate. A strand of profound energy flowed in, and instantly, the condition of those 3 profound entrances appeared clearly in Rinzhu's mind. Indeed, Su Hongba's 3 great profound entrances had been severely damaged long ago, but they had not been completely crippled. After all, the Su Hongba of 100 years past was still a late-stage monarch. How could his profound entrances be destroyed so easily? The injuries could only be described as extremely grave. Yet because they had remained in that state for so long, the 3 entrances had become fully sealed and blocked. Simply healing the wounds would already be difficult. As for reopening them, that was as hard as ascending to the heavens. With Rinzhu's medical expertise, if he poured his full effort into it, he could completely restore those 3 profound entrances without the slightest difficulty. His mastery over the human body was so vast that the risk of accidentally damaging the profound veins was non-existent. Moreover, if he used the profound light element to assist in regeneration, recovery would be guaranteed, though the process would take an absurdly long time due to the 2-realm cultivation gap between him and Su Hongba. By his calculations, even with daily continuous treatment, it would take at least a month to return the entrances to perfect condition. Time he simply could not afford to waste. There was also a more direct method, refining medicinal pills capable of healing the condition with ease. Yet for Rinzhu, that would be a wasteful use of precious resources. He had dozens of alternative methods, 1,000 different ways to repair a damaged body. There was no reason to squander rare essences and costly materials when the problem could be solved with patience and skill. Thus, he chose the most rational path. First reopen the profound entrances, and only afterward treat the internal injuries. Once unblocked, recovery would become simple. Profound energy would naturally spread on its own, allowing the body to regenerate without any external aid. There was, however, one problem. When those 3 entrances had sealed shut in the past, every one of Su Hongba's attempts to force them open had ended in utter failure. Now they were not only completely blocked but also gravely damaged. To any other profound practitioner, even with the aid of a genius physician, reopening them would be fundamentally impossible. Yet, Rinzhu had fully inherited and mastered the legacy of the creation goddess of life. Combined with the unparalleled talent he gained from absorbing the prime world liquid, he had become an existence that transcended ordinary comprehension. To him, creating new pills, devising unprecedented treatment methods, or reformulating ancient theories was as natural as breathing. The impossible, in his hands, was merely a matter of time and curiosity. It was no wonder he could conceive profound arts of terrifying complexity and devastation, or manipulate the entire stage of the illusory demon realm to serve his own ends. Without a doubt, his intellect was the most terrifying thing beneath the heavens. Or, at the very least, he was proving himself to be someone who possessed such intellect. After all, Rinzhu had won over the little demon empress by orchestrating their entire first encounter, crafting a life-or-death situation that led them to the Golden Crow's ancestral land, a plan executed to perfection and disguised as coincidence. During that time, the two became deeply and inevitably entangled, allowing the Empress to inherit the Golden Crow's legacy. Even though he later regretted how it all unfolded, that did not change the fact that it had been a brilliant, meticulously calculated move. Worthy of a villain like him. Moreover, he himself had obtained the Golden Crow legacy, along with enough resources to cultivate to the tyrant profound realm without major obstacles. He had also ensured his father received rare treasures through a wager he himself had rigged, knowing exactly where to strike, when to act, and how to win. Everything was part of a greater chessboard, a plan whose fruits would only ripen upon his return with the little demon empress, when he would finally deal with the traitors lurking in the shadows. Foreseeing that he might one day need concrete proof to expose their crimes, Renzu had even invented a device capable of projecting a profound practitioner's memories. Though the artifact was not as effective as he had hoped, it served perfectly to sow seeds of doubt and suspicion among the noble families, while subtly implying that Duke Huai had been cruel and ungrateful to the hand that once supported him. And in the end, Renzu was still learning about life itself. Despite all his power, wisdom, and mastery of certain elemental laws at a level the evil god himself could only dream of, he remained a being who made mistakes and, like any human, learned from them. Little by little, he was moving away from impulsive, reckless decisions. Each choice, each regret, shaped him more deeply than any divine legacy ever could. After all, he had come from a world shaped by concepts of morality and justice, where right and wrong were clearly defined, virtue exalted, and sin condemned. But this was a different world. Here, strength was law, and justice merely a luxury of the powerful. He knew purity fed no one, and mercy in this place was just another form of weakness. Thus, he chose his own path. A path where the ends justified the means, where he would not hesitate to sacrifice whatever was necessary to achieve his desires. Even if they called him a villain, even if everyone feared or hated him, he would not turn back, with that resolve etched into his heart. He had adjusted his mindset while training in the depths of the Sea of Death, within the Golden Crow Lightning Flame Valley, and so, like a true villain, he would cure his patient with style. With that thought, he decided to employ a profound art born from the profound light element, combined with his vast medical knowledge. With it, he could reopen the damaged profound entrances using nothing more than a single finger. It was an improvised technique created on the spot, but it was more than enough. Nephew Yoon, how are my grandfather's profound entrance injuries? Is there anything you can do? Su Zhijian asked nervously, his voice filled with hope after witnessing Renzu's actions, pulling him from his reverie. Renzu smiled faintly. Do not worry. Senior Su's profound entrance injuries are not as severe as you believe. Senior Su, relax as much as possible and refrain from using profound energy. Later, when an aura enters your profound veins, please do not resist it in the slightest. Renzu's words caused both father and son to reveal expressions of pleasant surprise. Su Hongba laughed heartily. Do as you wish. Renzu focused his mind, and a green light flickered from his palm. 3 strands of purifying aura followed his profound energy and entered Su Hongba's profound veins, making contact with the 3 damaged profound entrances with incomparable precision. Su Hongba's expression had remained utterly calm throughout, so calm it bordered on grim. That was because he, better than anyone, knew just how grave his injuries were. He had long given up hope that a day would come when his profound entrance wounds could be fully healed. Otherwise, why would he have endured 100 years of suffering? Yet, in that instant, his entire body suddenly jolted, and both eyes widened. Shock and disbelief radiated from his gaze, even his body trembled violently. Su Hongba's reaction startled Su Xiangnan. In his entire life, he had rarely seen his father display such emotion. Father, what's wrong? Su Hongba turned his head, his lips trembling with excitement. They're open. My heavenly gate, earthly gate, and palace gate. They're all open. What? Su Xiangnan and Su Zhijian stood dumbfounded, hardly daring to believe their ears. Su Xiangnan quickly stepped forward, pressed his hand against Su Hongba's body, and carefully inserted his profound energy. Moments later, his face revealed the exact same expression as his father's, complete disbelief. How is this possible? Su Xiangnan cried out. Fully healing profound entrances had already been their greatest wish for the past century. As for reopening those 3 entrances, forget hoping for it, the thought had never even crossed their minds, because it was simply something that could never happen. Yet that impossibility had truly occurred before their very eyes. Renzu withdrew his hand and declared casually, although the profound entrances have been reopened, the injuries remain. However, with them unblocked, the wounds to these 3 entrances should now heal naturally under the flow of profound energy. Still, it would be best if Senior Su refrains from using more than 70% of his profound energy for the next 2 months, or the condition may worsen. They should be more or less fully healed after 2 months. 2 months? Su Zhijian gasped. Oh, if you wish to recover a little faster, there is a way. Renzu continued. I will prescribe some medicines for Senior Su when I return. Send someone to the Yun family tomorrow morning to collect them. When the time comes, take one per day and place it near the injured profound entrances. Use profound energy to guide the medicinal energy inside and continue doing so for roughly 100 breaths. In 15 days at most, you should make a complete recovery. 15 days? Su Zhijian swallowed hard, his mouth falling open even wider. When Renzu had said 2 months earlier, Su Zhijian had thought it impossibly short for injuries that had gone untreated for over 100 years. Yet Renzu, apparently finding even that period too long, had reduced it to 15 days. Nephew Yun. The shock in Su Xiangnan's heart far surpassed his excitement. Though I had heard countless rumors of your extraordinary medical skills and that you could reopen profound entrances with a single finger, a legendary technique, I never imagined your medical abilities would be so shocking, so astonishing. Every genius physician in the entire Demon Imperial City cannot even compare to a single strand of your hair. Though Su Xiangnan's words seemed wildly exaggerated, they came straight from the depths of his heart. As a guardian family, the physicians they could invite were naturally the finest genius doctors in the entire illusory demon realm, fully worthy of their titles. Yet the countless physicians they had summoned over the past century, along with the innumerable medicines and profound jades used, had all been useless. But Renzu had directly reopened the damaged profound entrances, something 1,000,000 times more difficult than merely healing them. The results were as different as night and day, and he had accomplished it in little more than 10 breaths. He had no idea how Renzu had done it, nor would he thoughtlessly inquire. But based solely on the outcome, he knew that Renzu's attainment in medicine perhaps transcended both realms. Patriarch Su flatters me, Renzu said politely. Senior Su is well now, and this junior was merely fortunate not to fail. I will not disturb you further and shall take my leave. Wait! Upon hearing that Renzu intended to depart, Su Hongba leapt up with a whoosh and seized his arm. His previously pallid face was now flushed with excitement. With his 3 profound entrances fully unblocked, not only had 100 years of suffering ended, his cultivation speed would now surpass what it had been before. This was not merely healing his wounds, it was essentially granting him a second life. The sensation of his profound veins flowing freely nearly moved him to tears. Little brother, how can you just leave after bestowing such an enormous favor upon me? At the very least, allow our Su family to express our gratitude. There is no need. Renzu waved a hand and said casually, being able to heal Senior Su's injuries is this junior's honor. Moreover, to me this was not much. It is hardly worthy of being called a great favor. This junior will be quite busy with some matters soon, so I will not linger. I will pay a visit another day. Farewell. Renzu performed a junior's salute, gently turned, and walked away. Watching Renzu depart with such ease, though waves of emotion surged in Su Hongba's heart, he did not feel it right to press him to stay. He roared honestly at Renzu's retreating back. You did not merely heal this old man's wounds. You saved this old man's life, allowing this old man to finally live the second half of his life freely. Listen well. Just for saving this old man's life. If anyone in Demon Imperial City dares oppress you, tell me, and I will personally wipe out their entire family. Su Xiangnan gave a wry smile beside him. Father, he once casually subdued Duke Ming, a 10th-level monarch who could look down upon the world, so his profound cultivation is likely no less than the little demon empress, who has stepped into the divine profound realm. Moreover, the little demon empress is his future wife. Add to that his heaven-defying medical skills, in this entire Demon Imperial City, no one should be able to oppress him. Su Hongba whipped his head around, glared, and growled. Then why are you still standing here? Why haven't you escorted him out? Yes, yes. Su Xiangnan snapped back to his senses and hurriedly chased after Renzu. Su Xiangnan quickened his pace and caught up to Renzu, who had paused not far away in the side courtyard of the mansion. The young physician stood with his hands clasped behind his back, silently watching 2 young Su family disciples spar. The 2 moved swiftly, the sound of their palm strikes slicing through the air like heated steel. The profound art they employed exuded the intense yet stable aura characteristic of the Su family bloodline. Divine Wind Sword. Renzu observed calmly. His dark eyes reflected the profound energy sword lights dancing across the courtyard, and for a moment, it seemed as though he saw not just the disciples' movements but the very structure of the profound art itself. In mere seconds, everything was etched into his mind. The rhythm, the energy cycles, the profound routes, the weaknesses, and the potential for improvement. With a single glance, he had completely grasped the essence of that art. The glint in his eyes vanished as quickly as it had appeared, as if it had never been there at all. Su Xiangnan, hurrying over, noticed none of this depth. He only saw Renzu watching the youths with a faint smile and assumed he was admiring the talent of the new generation. "Young Master Yun," he called respectfully, bowing slightly. "Allow me to escort you to the gate. It would be discourteous to let someone of your stature leave unaccompanied." Renzu turned his gaze from the arena, and tranquility returned to his expression. "There is no need, Patriarch Su. I've said I dislike excessive formality. Besides..." He glanced briefly at the two young fighters, who now bowed upon noticing his presence. "The younger generation of the Su family looks promising. If they continue like this, perhaps one day your name will once again resound among the great clans." Su Xiangnan flushed slightly at the praise, even though deep down he knew those words came from someone who could see through the entire cultivation foundation of his disciples with a single look. "Your words are an honor to my family, young Master Yun." Renzu gave a small nod and resumed walking. As he watched him leave, Su Xiangnan felt a shiver run down his spine. That youth did not seem to belong to this world. Renzu paused for a moment at the edge of the gate and lifted his gaze to the sky. There was still much to be done, but tomorrow the little demon empress would officially announce their marriage, granting him a brief respite to spend some time by her side. He let out a soft sigh and shook his head, as if casting aside an unnecessary thought. The morning breeze blew gently, causing his robes to flutter for an instant, and then his figure dissolved like mist beneath the sun. In the blink of an eye, he was already back at the Yun family residence. Adjusting his sleeves, he took his first steps toward the hall where numerous guests awaited, ready once more to ply his trade as a physician. /N. Did you enjoy the chapter? Then you should know that over on my Patreon you can read up to 15 chapters ahead for just $5. And yes, for that price you also get full access to all of my content. That's right, cheaper than a snack, and with way more drama, action, and guaranteed emotional damage. The link is right below. See you there. My Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile. 50. Chapter 50. The days pass. The next day, dawn broke slowly over the demon imperial city, spreading a tenuous mist that seemed to dance among the rooftops of the aristocratic residences. After all the dealings with the Duke Huai Palace had been resolved, everything seemed perfectly at peace. The guards of the noble families were alert, but no longer paranoid. The servants moved fluidly, almost tranquilly, facing the new day with less fear and more normalcy. Throughout the city, small shops opened their doors, releasing aromas of freshly heated tea, ground medicinal herbs, polished wood, and hot bread. Birds flew low, singing in soft intervals, as if they too sensed that the heavy atmosphere of political warfare had finally dissipated. Inside the Yun clan residence, this breath of tranquility was even more pronounced. A fresh breeze swept through the central courtyard, rustling the jade leaves of the garden well tended by the servants. Renzu threw himself into the chair of the family pavilion he had used in recent days and let out a deep sigh, resting his elbow on the table while massaging his own neck. The wood was still cold from the morning air, and the silence of the pavilion contrasted violently with the chaos his mind had carried since he left the arms of the little demon empress just a few minutes ago. The soft light filtered through the silk curtains, illuminating his face unevenly and highlighting the slight shadow under his eyes, not from fatigue, but from excess activity during the night. His lips curved discreetly. It was definitely a pleasant problem. He leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. Today should be the day of the official marriage announcement. After all, 3 days had already passed since the little demon empress dealt with the traitors and promised that, at the end of that period, she would make everything public. But he, in the end, was there, as always, waiting to attend to people seeking his medical skills, exchanging treatments for resources, living that almost mundane routine. And this was not neglect, nor stubbornness, nor caprice. The truth behind it was simple, brutally simple, and, precisely for that reason, profoundly logical. In recent days, he had set aside time for something he never imagined doing so soon: studying politics. He started simply. His father accompanied him on every visit, every diagnosis, and every treatment, observing attentively the way he worked as a doctor. In the intervals, he spoke about laws, strategies, principles of leadership, and above all, about the silent cruelties involved in the act of governing, those that did not appear in books but shaped the true structure of power in this world. But it was only yesterday that he decided to delve deeply into the subject. He took various volumes from both the library of the illusory demon royal family and the private archives of the Yun family. Thanks to his intellect, a single glance was enough to perfectly memorize each page, an absurd advantage that accelerated his progress. In a few hours, he had devoured nearly thousands of books, absorbing advanced concepts, theories, histories, and methods of government. When he finally stopped, he realized he had become surprisingly proficient in politics, more so than many who had dedicated years to the same art. Now, he could intuitively understand the mechanisms behind any policy, governmental system, or power dynamic, and more importantly, he knew how to manipulate them. With the knowledge he brought from his past life, where he had studied psychology in depth, combined with the reading of all those books, something in him simply aligned. He came to possess an instinctive mastery of political skills, the precise choice of words, the rhythm of speech, the appropriate body language for each situation. He knew when to show firmness, when to retreat, when to provoke, when to silence. Each gesture of his sent exactly the signal he desired, without waste, without hesitation. This almost natural refinement granted him an overwhelming advantage. In any political scenario, whether facing allies, enemies, or figures of authority, he could place himself in the superior position, guiding conversations, intentions, and decisions as if pulling invisible strings. Regardless of who the target of his talents was, success seemed to simply follow his steps. It was no exaggeration to say that, currently, he is capable of always making the most advantageous decision to promote his agenda, expand his influence, anticipate political crises before they even arise, and neutralize them with precision. This talent, as he himself called it, operates as a true ultimate political mechanism. He acts, reacts, and conducts his own politics with impeccable technique, perfect timing, and a deep understanding of the gears that sustain any government or power structure. Based on his new understanding of politics, he knew that the best path would be to accumulate more influence as an accessible person, using his medical skills as a bridge for that. Only then did he fully understand what his father meant when he explained those concepts to him so deeply. After all, at the moment, he was the future husband of the little demon empress and the strongest profound practitioner in the entire illusory demon realm, titles that, by themselves, created a natural distance between him and the common people. In the eyes of those people, he lived in a world completely different from theirs. And, to make matters worse, all they knew about him were stories. The young man considered trash who suddenly saved the little demon empress from death, the miracle of receiving the favor of the divine golden crow god, the instant leap to power and status by becoming the future husband of the realm's ruler, and, as if that weren't enough, the fact of mastering medicine to the point of being consecrated as the best doctor in the entire illusory demon realm. What really mattered now was influence, roots, bonds that extended beyond his name and his strength. And that required time, strategy, and patience. For that reason, he decided that the best was to wait and build a solid network within the various influential families of the illusory demon realm. He didn't need formal alliances, at least not yet. Presence, precise favors, opportune medical interventions, conversations placed at the right moment were enough. Over time, each family would come to see him not as the future consort of the little demon empress, but as someone whose support was worth gold, someone whose goodwill was a blessing, and whose displeasure could mean a political disaster. In this way, even if he ascended to the realm of the gods in the future, he could leave without worries. After all, everything he conquered here would leave deep marks, influence enough to make anyone think twice before poking the hornet's nest he would be leaving behind. But the base of this plan was not just the nobility. He also wanted to conquer the common people, and that would make any influence even more solid and efficient. Not with demonstrations of power, but with humanity, with care. It was enough to be in the right places, treat the wounded without charging, rescue forgotten villages, resolve small conflicts that the nobles ignored. In a world governed by strength and fear, simple gestures transformed into legends. And legends, repeated by the people's mouths, shaped reputations much more resistant than any imperial decree. Well, he had devised a very good plan yesterday. Currently, he had gained several favors from more than half of the guardian families, and the rest were under the little demon empress's slave mark. It was already a great start. All he needed was time. With that in mind, he asked the little demon empress to postpone the announcement of their marriage. After hearing his plans to deal with possible future traitors, she agreed without any hesitation. But there was another reason, a much simpler reason, and much more human. The little demon empress wanted to enjoy these days with him as well. Without anyone bothering them regarding duties, Renzu opened his eyes and cast a calm glance toward the pavilion's entrance. With his spiritual perception covering the entire Yun family territory, it was easy to identify the presences approaching. Some visitors brought the sick directly to be treated, while others followed a procedure similar to that of the Su family, announcing themselves first and awaiting instructions. "Today will be a long day," he murmured, adjusting his sleeves. He straightened his posture, pushing his body forward calmly. The white sleeve, impeccable as freshly fallen snow, slid smoothly down his arm as he stood up. The morning breeze entered through the partially open door, moving the loose strands of his black hair, long and straight like spilled ink. The light bathed his face, enhancing the stark contrast between his soft features and the elegant coldness of his deep black eyes. Renzu stretched while his spiritual sense had already read everything around. Therefore, He was not surprised when his father entered the pavilion accompanied by two people. Yun Qinghong entered first, followed by a familiar man. Beside him walked Yan Zijing, patriarch of the Yan family, an imposing figure, about 1 meter and 90 tall, with a slender body, yet forged like a blade hardened by the fire of countless battles. The short beard, black with discreet silver threads at the ends, outlined a face of severe expression, though not hostile. His narrow eyes, as dark as polished obsidian, had the sharpness of a freshly sharpened spear. Tall, solid, with broad shoulders and firm posture, he wore a dark gray hanfu adorned with silver lines that descended in longilinear patterns, evoking the image of countless raised spears. Accompanying them came Yan Changkong, the young patriarch of the Yan family, at the peak of his 23 years. He was almost as tall as his father, with broad shoulders that seemed made to bear the weight of a heavy spear. Under the dark blue linen tunic fitted to his body and reinforced with light metal plates on the forearms and chest, defined muscles revealed themselves from continuous practice of martial arts. His face possessed a striking and austere beauty, with sharp features and impeccable symmetry. Firm jaw, straight nose like the shaft of a weapon, and lips that often curved into a confident smile. The black hair reached his shoulders, tied loosely with a red ribbon, allowing some strands to fall naturally. The eyes, inherited from his father, were as dark as polished coal, yet illuminated by a vibrant spark of youthful ambition. Renzu recognized them immediately. He remembered seeing them a few times in his predecessor's memories. Moreover, the Yan family had been one of the few that positioned themselves alongside the Yun family against Duke Huai and his traitors. From the patriarch to the youngest disciples, all wielded the spear as an extension of their own soul, cultivating the renowned, imperious spear art, a legacy that shaped the family's identity. They maintained a close and genuine relationship with the Yun family, an alliance forged over generations through mutual respect and shared valuation of martial honor. Although they were considered the weakest among the 12 guardian families, a consequence of concentrating their resources on the perfection of martial art rather than seeking raw, profound power, their reputation remained immaculate. Still, they were widely recognized as the best spear users in the entire illusory demon realm, and it would be a lie to say that this did not arouse his interest. Although he preferred the sword for mastering the limitless sword art, he always felt that the path of the spear would suit him better, especially considering his terrifying physical attributes. However, until now, he had never had the opportunity to truly train in that art. Yun Qinghong approached with tranquil steps. "Zuer," he said, with a slight nod, before extending his arm in an elegant gesture. "These are Yan Zijing and Yan Chengkong. They were telling me they need your medical skills." Ranzu nodded to his father, his black eyes, deep, silent, but laden with the natural authority he had acquired in recent days, respectfully appreciating each of the visitors before his head inclined in an impeccable greeting. "Patriarch Yan. Young Patriarch Yan." His voice was steady, courteous, refined. "I think this is the first time we speak formally. Welcome to the Yun clan." Yan Zijing was the first to respond, inclining his head slightly with calculated but genuine respect. "Nephew Yun, I believe this is indeed the first time. Feel free to call me Uncle Yan. Your father and I have a long friendship," he said, his voice deep like vibrating metal. "The honor is ours. The Yan family has always held the Yun family in high regard, and from everything I've heard about your ability, it is a privilege to finally meet you in person." Beside him, Yan Changkong straightened his back, cupping his hands in a respectful gesture. "Brother Renzu," he said with irreproachable respect, "it is a pleasure to meet you in person. I've heard your great name in recent days and had the opportunity to see you in action on that day of the coronation ceremony. You have my deepest admiration. I sincerely thank you for receiving us this morning. Your time is valuable, so we are even more grateful for allowing us to bother you so early." Renzu received the words from both without showing surprise or vanity. He merely let a light smile curve his lips. "Uncle Yen, Brother Changkong," he responded, adjusting the form of address without the slightest hesitation, as if the familiarity suited them naturally. "Your words are too generous. Still, I am honored." He gestured gently with his free hand, indicating the chairs arranged around the dark wooden table. "Please sit down. You need not worry about the time or the inconvenience." Yan Zijing reciprocated with the rigidity worthy of his position, while the young Changkong inclined his body slightly, maintaining a sincere respect that almost betrayed the evident admiration in his gaze. The pavilion was simple but harmonious. In its center was the square table of dark wood, delicately carved at the edges with traditional patterns in the shape of long clouds. The chairs matched the ancient style, with high backs and narrow arms slightly curved. The morning light rested on the polished surface like a thin veil of gold. As soon as each visitor took their seat, Renzu turned his face slightly. "Ing Su," he called in a soft tone, but one that crossed the pavilion with precision. A servant appeared almost instantly, head bowed, silent steps. "Bring more tea." he ordered. And the good ones. Yes, young patriarch. While Ingsu withdrew, Renzu turned his attention back to the two visitors with the impeccable composure he had been developing since diving headfirst into political studies. Yun Qinghong waited until everyone was settled, only then allowing the comfortable silence to last long enough to make the transition between the initial cordiality and the true reason for the visit. His posture was relaxed, but his experienced, logical, incisive eyes shone with that typical subtlety he used when he wished to conduct a conversation without direct confrontations. He ran his hand over the smooth surface of the table, as if merely appreciating the polished texture of the wood, before speaking in a casual, almost distracted tone. It's been many years since the last time the Yen clan needed assistance in internal matters. It was a simple phrase, superficial, but anyone accustomed to political dynamics would perfectly understand that it was not a common comment, as it served as a way to break the initial silence before a formal request, leaving the one who would make such a request quite comfortable to do so. Yen Zijing caught the intention immediately. The way his rigid shoulders relaxed for a brief second made it clear that he expected exactly that opening. He placed his hand on the table, his long and firm fingers forming a discreet gesture of respect, but also of determination. "Patriarch Yun," he said sincerely, "indeed our family has always avoided bothering others, but this time, it's different." The penetrating gaze he cast at Renzu was laden with weight, as if analyzing not just the young man, but all the sinister and silent power he represented. Yen Zijing straightened his posture, nodding once, as if making the final decision at that exact moment. "In fact, nephew Yun," he used the familiar address without hesitation. "The reason we came in person is simple." He took a deep breath. "I would like to ask you to help Chung Kong by opening some of his profound entrances." Yun Qinghong showed no surprise, Renzu even less. He understood perfectly the almost absurd value of someone capable of opening profound entrances. It was common knowledge that the number of inherently open, profound entrances essentially determines how high someone can reach in their life, as it is extremely difficult to open profound entrances after birth. None of the following factors can be absent: extremely advanced miraculous medicine, chance, and luck. Using external forces to open profound entrances carries extremely high risks, as even the smallest error can cause irreparable damage to the profound veins. He had the ability to open profound entrances with just a casual finger. The one-finger profound opening is the supreme technique in the medical field. With this technique, one can quickly open a profound practitioner's entrance in the postnatal period with just a finger. Unless one has extremely deep knowledge of the human body and has reached the pinnacle of medical proficiency, performing this would definitely be impossible. Basically, what he had in his hands was not just a rare technique, it was a privilege that permanently altered a person's cultivation potential, something that even high-level spiritual resources could not reproduce. This made his skill one of the most coveted in the entire illusory demon realm. In the specific case of the Yen family, the request made even more sense. The Yen clan was known for following the path of the spear in a pure and unwavering manner. This meant that their cultivators prioritized technique, martial precision, and refined physical training attributes that required time, discipline, and stable cultivation, but which often left them one step behind the other guardian families, who divided their resources between profound arts and advancement in the profound path. Therefore, a permanent improvement in cultivation speed had gigantic weight for them. It would not change who they were, but it would reduce the distance separating them from more powerful clans, allowing their specialized lineage to continue growing without stagnating. And when it came to choosing who should receive such a benefit, the answer was obvious. Yen Changkong was the future patriarch of the clan, direct heir to Yen Zijing, and a young man whose martial base had already been shaped with extreme care. Investing in him meant investing in the future of the entire family. Moreover, allowing the successor to carry enhanced talent was a guarantee of internal stability and greater external prestige, something any sensible leader would seek to ensure. "I know it's a big request," Yen Zijing continued, without beating around the bush now, "and I know very well what it means. Opening profound entrances is a benefit that lasts a lifetime, something that permanently alters cultivation speed." He paused. A heavy, almost ceremonial pause. "And I also know that the price for this kind of assistance is astronomical." The words were not flattery. They were the objective acknowledgement of a fact. Yen Zijing knew exactly what he was asking, and he knew even more the type of person to whom he was asking. He continued, "But I will not dare to be stingy. Not before someone whose medical talent, profound power, and future position surpass any standard this patriarch has ever seen." His gaze rested briefly on the jade ring on his own finger, as if reminding himself of the responsibility he carried as patriarch before turning back to Renzu. "You are the strongest profound practitioner in this realm, and the future husband of the little demon empress. It would be stupidity on my part to try to bargain with you." Yen Changkong, beside him, remained motionless, but the tension in his jaw betrayed the mix of expectation and self-control. He knew how rare and valuable that kind of help was and how much it meant for his father to come ask in person. Yan Zijing then concluded with a firm and absolutely clear tone. If you accept, nephew Yun, be assured that the Yen clan will give everything necessary. Resources, treasures, favors, future obligations. Whatever you ask, we will deliver. When Yan Zijing finished, the pavilion plunged into a brief silence, not heavy, but deliberate, as if he himself were allowing the atmosphere to breathe before responding. Then, Renzu sighed. Patriarch Yen. He began, his voice low, calm, boundlessly secure. Before anything else, allow me to assure something. His eyes shone under the morning light, so black and deep that it was difficult to discern where the gaze ended and the intention began. I would be unfair and indelicate if I showed preference for one family without reason. Renzu crossed his hands on the dark wooden table. When I treated the Su family and the Under Heaven family, in both cases, I opened 3 profound entrances for free. It was my way of thanking the support they offered my family when the Imperial City was in crisis. He obviously would not reveal the whole truth about having decided to do this with the Su family to heal the old patriarch. As for the Under Heaven family, he also coincidentally opened 3 profound entrances. Yun Qinghong inclined his head slightly, approving the statement. Renzu continued, in the same way, I would never place the Yen clan in an inferior position. Yan Zijing let out a slow breath, like someone receiving exactly the response he expected, but did not dare presume. Renzu then allowed a minimal smile. I can open 3 profound entrances for Brother Chenkong. For free. Consider this the same gesture I offered to the other clans that stood by the Yun family. Yen Chenkong blinked, surprised for the first time, before forcing his body to remain motionless within etiquette. But then Renzu raised a finger, signaling that he had not finished yet. However, the word did not come as a cold demand, but as a door being calmly opened. If Patriarch Yen wishes me to open more than that, then I will need something. Yan Zijing did not back down. On the contrary, he leaned slightly forward, attentive. Renzu rested his arm on the chair's backrest, a posture too relaxed for someone dealing with such a large request. But it was exactly that confidence that made him frightening. I don't want profound treasures, he said, dismissing the hypothesis with a gentle gesture of his hand. Nor resources, nor political favors. He turned his head, allowing the morning light to cross his black hair. The only thing I ask, his eyes met Yen Chenkong's, and then the patriarch's, is to have the opportunity to look at the Yen clan's spear art. Yan Zijing remained absolutely motionless for an instant. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. The shock that crossed his face did not come from the difficulty of the request, nor from some kind of affront, but precisely from the opposite. The request was too simple. Simple, and, paradoxically, heavy as a mountain. Renzu did not demand profound treasures, nor political favors, nor strategic benefits. Everything someone of his level would normally ask for in the face of a request as valuable as opening profound entrances. On the contrary, he deliberately refused any high payment and made it clear that he would do the same as he did for the Su family and the Under Heaven family. 3 profound entrances for free, without favors, without debt, without pressure. And if they wanted more, all he asked was to take a look at the Yen clan's spear art. To an outsider, this might sound trivial. To an experienced patriarch like Yan Zijing, it was staggering for several reasons. First, Renzu was not naive. The value of profound opening was so high that it could, alone, buy loyalties or force entire alliances. And yet, he deliberately refused any payment. This gesture eliminated any suspicion of political favoritism and demonstrated a sense of justice rarely seen among the guardian families, especially coming from the future husband of the little demon empress. Second, by asking only to see the family's spear art, Renzu demonstrated a characteristic that few great talents possessed: respect for others' paths. A tyrant would demand that they hand over their manuals. An opportunist would try to force an unequal exchange. But he asked nothing for himself, only permission to observe and study something that anyone following the path of the spear with an honest and direct mindset would recognize as a form of reverence. This revealed something crucial. Renzu was not trying to exploit the Yen clan, nor extort their heritage. He was just interested, genuinely interested. It was the kind of request that arose not from greed, but from sincere curiosity and admiration for an art that he, despite his monstrous talent, had never had the chance to learn. Third, and perhaps most important, this request showed the kind of power that Renzu truly possessed. A power that did not need to take anything by force. He could have demanded absolutely anything. Secret techniques, ancestral resources, or even political obligations that would place the Yen clan in a position of dependence for generations. The Yen family would have accepted because they came determined to do anything for such an opportunity. Any family would accept, even if just to create a connection with him. After all, Renzu was the strongest profound practitioner on the continent, the future imperial consort, and the only doctor in the illusory demon realm capable of permanently elevating someone's cultivation potential. Yet he asked only knowledge without other demands? This was, paradoxically, the most intimidating gesture of all, because it demonstrated that Renzu did not need to resort to coercion. His strength was so absolute, so consolidated, that he could afford to be generous. And his confidence so solid, that he had no fear of allowing others to prosper with his help without demanding anything in return. Yan Zijing understood all this in a single second. And it was exactly for that reason that he felt profoundly shocked, because someone as powerful, as influential, and as indispensable as Renzu asking for something so simple, was incontestable proof that his interest in the spear art was genuine and devoid of ulterior motives. Few requests seemed so small, but very few were so significant. Yen Chengkong did not have as much experience as his father to understand the complexity of the request, but he found it natural. Renzu maintained the light, polite, and immaculate smile. I have always admired the path of the spear, he admitted naturally, but I never had the opportunity to study it. If you can allow me just to see it, that will be more than enough. He leaned back again, the white sleeves sliding like snow over the chair's armrest. In exchange, I can open at least 10 profound entrances. Yun Qinghong remained silent, but a deep satisfaction shone in his eyes. It was exactly the kind of elegant negotiation he wanted his son to learn, and ironically, Renzu already mastered it as if he had been born into it. The pavilion fell quiet for a moment. Yan Zijing remained motionless for another brief instant, as if weighing not just Renzu's words, but the vast ocean of implications they carried. His dark eyes blinked once, and then, with a deliberate slowness that conveyed absolute respect, he inclined his head in a deep bow, not subservient, but from equal to equal, the gesture of a patriarch who recognized greatness without resentment. Nephew Yun. His voice resounded low, laden with a contained emotion that rarely showed in his forged blade posture. Your generosity is immeasurable. 3 profound entrances for free would already be a favor that the Yen clan would never forget. But 10, in exchange for something that, for us, is mere martial heritage. He raised his gaze, and for the first time, a trace of genuine smile curved the corners of his short beard. I accept, without hesitation. The Yen clan considers this not an exchange, but an honor. Yen Changkong, beside him, straightened even more, the defined muscles under the dark blue tunic tensing in a mix of excitement and reverence. His coal eyes shone with an admiration that went beyond protocolar respect. It was the gaze of a young warrior who saw, before him, not just a doctor or a future imperial consort, but a practitioner he deeply admired. Yan Zijing turned slightly to his son, his large hand resting on his shoulder with paternal firmness. Chengkong, did you bring the complete manual with you, by chance? If not, I'll send someone to fetch it. Yen Chengkong blinked, momentarily caught off guard. He carried it out of habit, a routine precaution for trainings or unexpected demonstrations, never imagining it would be necessary there, in that serene Yun clan pavilion. Yes, father. It's here. Without delay, he retrieved it from his spatial ring. A subtle glow emanated from the artifact, and a notebook bound in hardened leather materialized in his palm. Thick, with a cover reinforced by thin metal plates at the edges, exuding a faint aroma of ancient ink and weapon oil. The title, engraved in silver letters that evoked intertwined spear tips, read clearly, Imperious Spear Art, Complete Legacy of the Yen Clan. With both hands, Yen Chengkong offered the manual to Renzu, inclining his body in an impeccable salute. Brother Renzu, here it is, the entire legacy of our family, from the basics to the apex. Renzu accepted the notebook with a gracious nod, his long and pale fingers brushing the cover with a delicacy that contrasted with the latent strength in his body. Thank you, Brother Chengkong. It is a pleasure to do business with the Yen clan, honest, direct, and without unnecessary artifices. He positioned the manual on the dark wooden table, opening it calmly. The pages, of reinforced spiritual paper, revealed intricate diagrams of spear postures, profound energy flows traced in red and black ink, and handwritten annotations from past generations. His black eyes scanned the lines with an almost casual speed, a glance here, a page turned there, as if he were merely leafing through out of passing curiosity. In mere minutes, the entire content, fundamental concepts, advanced variations, energy infusion secrets, imperious counterattacks, and even the mental meditations for perfect synchronization with the weapon, was etched into his mind with photographic precision. Without additional ceremony, Renzu closed the notebook and returned it to Yen Chengkong with the same fluid grace. Fascinating. truly worthy of your reputation as the Divine Spear Clan. I thank you for the opportunity. Yan Zijing and Yan Changkong exchanged a quick, subtle glance, a mix of relief and veiled confusion. The patriarch inclined his head, interpreting the gesture as refined courtesy. Renzu asked to look only out of respect for their heritage, a polite formality to not accept the benefit without some symbolic reciprocity. After all, who in their right mind would memorize an entire legacy in such a brief glance? It must have been a superficial inspection, they thought, to honor the agreement without deeply invading the clan's secrets. It was an act of nobility, nothing more generous, like everything else he had offered. Not for a moment did it cross the mind of father or son that Renzu, with that single look, had absorbed and mastered the imperious spear art, completely elevating it to the apex in his instinctive understanding. For them, the manual would return untouched in essence, and the request had been mere politeness. Yun Qinghong, observing in silence, allowed a discreet smile to touch his lips. He knew his adopted son well enough to suspect the truth, but he kept the thought to himself, satisfied with the political mastery demonstrated. He had not said much and left everything in his hands precisely for his son to practice. Renzu then stood up, the white sleeves rippling like morning mist. Now, Brother Changkong, let's proceed with the profound entrances. Relax and sit here beside me. It will be quick and painless. Yan Changkong sat in the chair indicated by Renzu, his back straight as a spear shaft, but his shoulders relaxed by the young doctor's silent order. Renzu positioned himself behind him, standing, his posture relaxed, almost casual. His black eyes, deep as bottomless wells, scanned the young patriarch's body. Breathe deeply, he said, his voice low, firm, without unnecessary emotion. And do not resist. Yan Changkong obeyed. The air entered slowly, filling his lungs, expanding his chest. In the next instant, Renzu's right index finger, surrounded by profound energy, touched through the clothing exactly between the 7th and 8th ribs, to the left of the sternum. But in that touch something happened. An invisible wave spread from the contact. Renzu manipulated a thread of profound energy that extended into the point where he touched. An internal snap, almost inaudible, echoed inside Yan Changkong's body. The first profound entrance opened. But he did not stop. His finger slid a centimeter to the right, touching a point just below the left clavicle. The second entrance opened. He continued touching various points in the blink of an eye. 30 seconds passed. 10 profound entrances opened in less than 30 seconds. When the last touch was given, Renzu withdrew his finger as if he had never touched. Yan Changkong remained seated, eyes closed, breathing deeply. The profound energy around him now hummed, visible even to ordinary eyes. A subtle golden aura, almost imperceptible, dancing over his skin like mist in the sun. Yan Zijing, who observed in absolute silence, felt his chest tighten. While Yun Qinghong sighed, he had seen it many times, but it never ceased to be incredible. Renzu took a step back, adjusting the white sleeve with a tranquil gesture. It's done, he said simply. The 13 profound entrances are open. Your cultivation speed will increase at least double what it was before. Yan Changkong opened his eyes slowly, as if emerging from a deep dream where the entire world had expanded. From these opened profound entrances, he felt a subtle torrent of profound energy flowing into his veins like rivers emptying into a newly discovered ocean. 13. He murmured, his voice hoarse with disbelief. His coal eyes fixed on Renzu as if seeing him for the first time. Brother Renzu, this is more than I ever dared to dream. My cultivation. I feel like I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. Yan Zijing rose from the chair with a slowness that betrayed the weight of contained emotion. His broad shoulders, accustomed to bearing the burden of generations, relaxed for a rare instant. He placed his hand on his son's shoulder, squeezing with paternal firmness, but his eyes dark as obsidian were fixed on Renzu. Nephew Yun, he said with a voice full of emotion. You not only opened profound entrances, you rewrote my son's destiny. The Yan clan owes you a debt that transcends generations. Not as an obligation, but as eternal honor. He inclined his head in a deep salute, the dark gray Hanfu rippling like shadows of raised spears. Yan Changkong followed his father's example, standing and bowing even deeper, hands cupped in front of his chest. Brother Renzu, from this day on, consider the Yan clan as an extension of your own spear. Any call, any battle, my weapon will be at your disposal. Renzu waved his hand lightly, the gesture elegant and devoid of arrogance, as if what he had just done was mere routine. His deep black eyes met theirs, conveying an absolute calm that contrasted with the whirlwind of emotion from father and son. Uncle Yan, Brother Changkong, he responded casually. There is no debt here. 3 entrances were a gesture of gratitude for the Yen clan's loyalty to my family in dark times. The additional 10, well, let's say the imperious spear art inspired me more than I expected. Consider this a fair exchange between friends. Yen Zijing, full of emotion, turned his gaze to Yun Qinghong, and for the first time that morning, there was something beyond diplomatic courtesy in his eyes. There was true reverence. Cupping his hands, he inclined slightly, in a gesture he rarely offered to another patriarch. His words flowing with weight and sincerity. Patriarch Yun, allow me to say something I've been thinking since the moment I met your son. Yun Qinghong remained serene, without haste, but there was a discreet glint of curiosity in his gaze. Raising a talent is already admirable. Raising a genius, rare. Yen Zijing continued, his eyes shifting momentarily to Ren Zhu, who remained calm and polite. But raising someone like him, someone powerful without arrogance, wise without presumption, and benevolent without naivety, that is something immeasurable. The hall became so silent that the distant sound of the wind crossing the pavilion could be heard. The world knows your name as the great genius of the ancient Yun lineage. But I, Yen Zijing, say that your greatest legacy was not your talent, but your son. For an instant, something soft and rarefied passed over Yun Qinghong's countenance. He was not moved by praises, but those words touched a place few had permission to reach. With impeccable posture, he inclined his head, responding with the dignity of a true master. Patriarch Yen, your words are too generous. His voice was tranquil, but there was in it a contained, affectionate pride. My son has always walked a path that no one could truly trace for him. If he became who he is today, the greater merit is his. His gaze met Renzu's, not that of the incomparable young man who now led an entire generation, but that of the son he had sworn to protect when he raised him as his own. But, Yun Qinghong continued, and a light, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. As a father, I cannot deny that hearing this brings me great joy. Father, Uncle Yen, Renzu began, his voice low and refined. You praise me too much. There was no false modesty in his words, no forced humility. It was simply the tranquil acknowledgement of someone who did not let himself be inflated by praises, someone who accepted recognition with the same naturalness as breathing. His black eyes moved briefly from Yun Qinghong to Yen Zijing, acknowledging the respect of both without submitting to it. I merely do what I believe is correct. He concluded, with that unshakable calm that only those above the world's disputes could maintain. Nothing more than that. Yen Chengkong could not avoid a brief laugh, which was respectful but sincere. He inclined his head, his eyes shining with something between admiration and disbelief. Too humble, brother Renzu, he said, with a touch of joviality that rarely a young patriarch would dare show before another. If all who merely did the correct could heal dead profound veins, open profound entrances without risk, and reach the legendary divine profound realm, the entire realm would have been saved long ago. Modesty at that level borders on cruelty to the rest of us. The observation drew a brief and surprising smile from Yun Qinghong. He crossed his arms, shaking his head, like someone who had already lived with that type of response many times. Ha! It's useless to try to make him admit any greatness, he said, amused, the paternal tone overflowing in every word. Zuer has always been like this, since he was little. And now, even if he saves one person, he would say he was just passing by. If he healed 100, he would say he did the minimum. If he carried the entire Yun clan on his back, he would probably still say it was nothing special. Yen Zijing, previously so serious, allowed himself to let out a deep laugh rare for someone of his status. Then he really takes after his father, he commented, with a warm glint in his eyes. Patriarch Yun, you raised a formidable son. You are being generous again, Patriarch Yen. Yun Qinghong smiled, before politely inviting the two. Patriarch Yen, nephew Chengkung, why not stay for tea? Ingsu must be bringing the premium mountain leaves now. Yen Zijing nodded, the genuine smile still present. It would be an honor, Patriarch Yun. At that moment, Ingsu returned with a tray of steaming tea, the aroma of rare herbs filling the pavilion. Renzu shook his head and sat down again, gesturing for everyone to do the same, starting a conversation with the father and son of the Yen family, with his father participating as well. /N. Did you enjoy the chapter? Then you should know that over on my Patreon you can read up to 15 chapters ahead for just $5. And yes, for that price you also get full access to all of my content. That's right, cheaper than a snack, and with way more drama, action, and guaranteed emotional damage. The link is right below. See you there. My Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficnovels. Thank you so much for your support. You make all of this worthwhile.
Every novel listed in the description comes with permanent access to the audiobook on Telegram. You pay once, and if the novel is still ongoing, you'll receive all future updates automatically. No extra cost. Choose your novel from the description, then DM me on Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord. After payment via PayPal, Ko-Fi, or Patreon, you'll get instant access. Simple, secure, lifetime listening. Guys, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Your support means a lot.